Welcome to SicEm365 Radio.
Prescott going to keep it all. What a zone read. Look at Dak Prescott with room to roll. Prescott still going down to the 20.
SicEm365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Michael, get it forward for the fresh shot clock. MJ. Oh, he did it! Hey, Michael shakes the finger!
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Start from their own 28. Here's Charlie Brewer with time. He'll take a shot down the field. Denzel Mims is there, and he's got it. What a throw and catch.
Here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Well, here we go. SicEm365 Radio. We're going to discuss a little bit of Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, something I saw on Twitter from Damian Woody about that discussion about percentage of money you give a quarterback and what it relates to as far as it wins and losses. There's a stat that Babe Laufenberg put up last night. Pretty staggering when it includes just 2 names in NFL history. And then also something we have fun with on occasion when Jason King, who sends us basically what are like homework assignments. Sometimes you have time and sometimes you don't. But one that was off the top of the head, what's your favorite convenience store leaving for a road trip snack? You thought we were going to start with Lee Trevino today, didn't you?
I mean,
it's okay.
I thought we were going to get Jack Nicklaus today. We're just going to move on up the ladder.
Nicklaus has so far advised me that it's not in his schedule. Rick Barry, Hall of Famer, he'll be on with us tomorrow. James Washington, former Cowboys safety, tomorrow. He's a part of the NFL alumni in Southern California. Craig Smoke in the Santana Dotson today, former Packers and Baylor great. Also we'll have Mack Rhodes, and look forward today to Will Perdue from the last dance. So, what'd you say about California?
Well, there's reports out today that California is going to be extending their stay-at-home orders for another 3 months. So that would mean that you're looking at the rest of May, obviously, June, July, and potentially August. And I know that there's nothing official out there on this yet, but it's certainly the hot topic, I would say, in college football circles today, that California could be moving in this direction. And, of course, that leads everybody to go, all right, well, if they're still not allowed to play football in August or potentially in September, what does that mean for some of these non-conference matchups? Because there are several involving teams from the state of Texas or from the Big 12 versus West Coast schools. So, Governor Newsom, from what Paul just said a second ago, he checked in on this, and there's nothing official that's been announced, but there sure is a lot of chatter about this potentially happening and the ramifications it could have on the upcoming college football season.
Well, that's interesting because you take 3 months, you're talking June, July, August, and so then you still have to work out, I think, I don't know if it was Mack Rhodes or if it was even Brian Stewart, one of the assistant coaches we've spoken to, Barry Switzer, whoever, the Mac Brown, that you'd need, 30 days probably to get yourself just in the weight conditioning no matter what you've been doing, because you know it's not as good no matter who you're working out with than it would be with your strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah, the rumors say that this would be a lockdown that extends through July. So, you could still have football in August, I suppose. But, yeah, the I guess specifics of this still need to be worked out, but certainly, yeah, it would have a huge effect if, in fact, this were to happen. But we got to wait and see. I do see, though, a lot of traction as though it's already been announced when we're still kind of waiting for that. And I know, Paul, you can kind of clear up some of that.
Yeah.
Well, Nikki Lorenzo, it's a friend who was at KCEN here in Waco.
Yeah, now she works on the Fox affiliate in Sacramento right now. She is actually on the governor's conference call, and she said that he has not said anything about a date, and he won't, but it is individual cities and counties that have the ability to do it, and the theory is that more than likely some of the smaller counties and cities will reopen up at the end of the month, but that L.A. and San Francisco could extend, which would mean essentially Cal, UCLA, Stanford, USC.
Well, we've heard some. either conference commissioners or schools. It depends on who you discuss. Hey, we're moving on, and if you're not a part of it, you're not a part of it. And of course, I don't know how that would work out. In this day and age, let's say even if that made sense, in this day and age of oversensitivity, not about corona, not about COVID. I'm talking about
life.
Oh, what do you mean?
General?
It's not fair.
Like,
yes.
Yeah. I ordered no pickles. Why would you do this to me? Yeah. No, yeah, I know.
Can you imagine that would be you just like you take yourself out of just the social media part of it, but that's fine. That's fine. So I don't know. I mean, I would think if they extend 3 months, and is that a surprise that it's California that would do? Not that they may be right, but is that a shock that it's California?
I mean, I'm not politically as, I guess, inclined in thinking about these things as I guess you are, or maybe some others are. I don't really care about the political side of it, although I know that's having a massive effect on all these decisions. But, despite social media or who would complain or who cares. But, it's not a surprise that California would do it. I mean, I think that they're just feeling like they're doing their level of due diligence. A lot of the tracking with COVID, some of the information that we do have at our disposal now seems to show that, a lot of the outbreaks around the country have in some ways been influenced by California and travel to and from, and some of their effects have come from a lot of the New York travel. And there's all this scientific data that's out there that's trying to track the virus and, get an idea of grasping on to, where it broke out and where's the most devastated places and where do we have to be the most cautious and all of that. But no, I'm not surprised. I mean, to each their own. Each state's got their own decision to make. And here in Texas and in the South, in large part, we're a lot more aggressive about getting back to normal life. But, the more liberal state out there on the West Coast where they've been hammered pretty good, no, I'm not surprised by it.
Well, and that's how...
Let's get into what it means about college football.
Yeah, that's exactly how sports are going to have to react because, especially for college athletics, the NFL... I mean, they just raised their debt limit. So, and they've said, nobody comes back until we all come back. And the NFL can deal with that. I mean, they can deal with it. They're fine. They're all going to be fine. But colleges are not all going to be fine if nothing happens. So if
isn't that interesting? California baseball just mentioned July 4th.
Yeah.
And if they extend it through July, Dodgers, Angels, Giants, A's.
I bet you they'll find a place to play. Yeah.
Padres.
I bet you they'll find a place to play.
Yeah.
Because, again, there's going to be enough momentum on the rest of the 50 states, especially the ones with sports in them, that you got to do something.
All right, so part of this pop quiz, and I want to get to Dak Prescott, Babe Laufenberg, Damian Woody, but part of this pop quiz, one of the questions was who among the undrafted, I'll let you guys answer this. This is in the premium section, but you weren't a part of this one. Who among the undrafted free agents, which one, in your opinion, has the best chance to make an NFL roster? Jason King's the one that put all this together, put it up on the premium 365, SicEm365.com.
I would say Graylin Arnold, special teams, versatility, returning kicks.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to fill this out either, so I'm going off the top of my head on these answers. Graylin Arnold's a good choice. I think, Clay Johnston with the Chargers would be another potential choice. I'm thinking about the Henry Blacks and Jamison Houstons, and I think those guys have chances to make teams, but I'd be more sold on a guy like Clay carving out a role or Graylin.
Out of the 14 that are going to be in an NFL camp, at least, Clay Johnston might still end up.
Yeah, he was drafted.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, sorry. So I guess Graylin then.
I said Jamison Houston. I don't know why. Just talking to his agent, I feel he's big, strong, whatever. I said I'm tempted to say Blake Lynch because of all the versatility, but again, I don't know what it all means. Number 2. What incoming freshman, now you have to dig pretty deep. You know how I am about this, but which incoming freshman, a part of the class that signed in December or February, is the one that excites you the most? Craig, we'll start with you.
I'll say
James Sylvester, the defensive end from Newton, even though he might redshirt his freshman year.
I'll go, please go, Paul.
I'll say Seth Jones, the wide receiver.
All right.
Yeah. I think because of the way that they have to kind of shuffle the deck at wide receiver, we might see Seth Jones a little bit because they don't have a lot of guys outside.
Who's the JUCO corner, Craig? The kid from I don't know his name, but I thought about him. You know whose name?
Alfahim Walcott.
Yeah, you know who one that popped into my head for some reason was Drake Dabney. Remember the tight end, the big tight end target?
Yeah, I was looking at him as a potential choice. I was actually eyeing him pretty good because they definitely use some help at tight end. So, yeah, Drake Dabney is not a bad choice. I mean, he's already, at last listing, he's 6'4.5". He's like 230 pounds. So, I think he's got a ways to go as far as adding weight and getting his body where they want it to be, but it doesn't appear that he would be that far off, quite frankly, from what they would eventually want him at. So, yeah, this would be a year where I think you're really looking to potentially redshirt a guy like Christoph Henley, and so you don't just rush him in 4 years in, 4 years out, and then his career's already over. So I think this would be an ideal year for him to redshirt and have one more year with some development and some time to have grown his body. So that leaves a lot of unproven guys. Ben Sims is relatively unproven at this point, and there's some others. But, yeah, Dabney would definitely be a candidate to come in and be an athletic tight end for you.
Matt Rule's biggest recruiting coup at Baylor. I think this is simple. I actually sent him a text. Why not get the answer from him? Who do you think he said?
Joey McGuire.
No, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Charlie Brewer.
Yeah.
James Lynch, and Tyquan Thornton.
Oh, I think Tyquan Thornton, that was actually one of the ones I was going to mention because you went into South Florida. Baylor, I can't think of many guys Baylor's had from South Florida, which is an area that's got a lot of guys that can run. And that's what Tyquan Thornton can do.
With Brewer and Lynch, he made them flip from SMU and then, of course, Southern Cal. So that's also both, of course, are huge.
Yeah, I think, as far as the impact they had at the time, it's Charlie. I still remember very clearly when, all that recruiting calamity was going on where it seemed like, every moment there was some new recruiting news because they were putting this class together in such a hurry over that 5-6 week stretch, whatever it ended up being. But, that was a wild time. But I still remember very clearly when Charlie Brewer, quite frankly, out of the blue, right around Christmas time or whatever it was, popped out the message that he had flipped from SMU to Baylor. And I remember going, whoa, like that right there is a big time flip because even though he wasn't being pursued by, a lot of the Power 5 schools per se, and he had been committed to SMU for a while, Texas had started to show some interest in him. And he was, obviously a legendary name in Texas high school football. So when Charlie Brewer committed, everybody kind of took note and was like, okay, I see what they're doing now. And that really provided a spark. Tyquan
he's going to start for 3.5 years.
Yeah, Tyquan was very much more of an unknown. But now that you see what he's capable of and you see that, yeah, there's definitely NFL potential written all over this guy, I do think he was a huge coup. And then James, obviously, we didn't know how great he would be as quickly as he was, but obviously he turned into the Baylor all-time sacks leader. So, yeah, that was a huge coup.
All right, let's 3:13 is the time. Craig Smoke, Paul Catalina, also Dylan Chapman is here today. I'm David Smoke, SicEm365 Radio. This can go back, Paul. You go deeper into the history with this most underrated player in the Scott Drew era. This is not a name. It could be, but it's the most underrated player. Can you put my headsets up just a tad, please? Okay, thank you. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, man.
You want to think about it?
Let
me start because I actually
go ahead.
Kenny Cherry. Let me tell you why. He followed the explosiveness of Pierre Jackson, who was a fan favorite and also could score. When he got hurt, the year they went to the Sweet 16 in New York, Long Beach. Is it Long Beach?
Anaheim.
There was a time, remember, they lost 8 of 9 games in conference play. He was hurt during that time. Then he came back and they won 8 of 9 and dug themselves out of an incredible ditch. And then they got to the Sweet 16 before they were blown out by Wisconsin. So I reached out to Jerome Tang about this. He also mentioned Anthony Jones and Henry Dugat.
Okay, yeah.
So let's give you,
Yeah. I'll throw one out there that a lot of Baylor fans got really frustrated with, but his defense at times was really important because he wasn't a scorer at all, and that's A.J. Walton.
He was always someone that was a lockdown defensive player. He did
the dirty work.
Yeah, he did.
He was sloppy. Offensively he was kind of a mess sometimes, but
man, you know he was he was also a really good kid.
Worked in the zone, like they're running the zone back then. He understood it really well.
Craig, you've been only about 7 years. Anyone off the top of your head?
Kenny Cherry makes a lot of sense to me. I felt like he was always sort of just, not taken for granted in a disrespectful way by any means, but it just always felt like he was just kind of a name that people said. They didn't really talk ever all that glowingly about him, and I thought he was a pretty good player. So, yeah, Kenny Cherry would definitely fit that bill for me.
Okay. One quick answer because I want to get to the Dak stuff. Your go-to gas station snack on a road trip.
Sour cream and onion Pringles.
I actually read this when I thought I was going to have time to fill this out last night, and I ended up not having time. And so when I first read this, I actually just thought it was the gas station, so that was an easy answer in Buc-ee's. But actual gas station trip, I usually get a Crunch Bar and like Reese's Sticks. So those are kind of my go-tos.
Paul, what would mine have been 7 years ago?
Three Musketeers.
Three Musketeers is one of the things I mentioned. Twinkies, Gizzards. Remember, I'd get the Gizzards and I'd throw salt all over them.
Oh, man, yeah.
And now it's pretty much a bag of pretzels and maybe a cold can of Diet Coke. Jason King said, during the winter when I just don't care, I'm probably stopping at Jack in the Box for egg rolls with ranch. He also mentioned
Paul's face right now.
Late night drives from Waco to Dallas after a weeknight basketball game. I'm going with Bang energy drink, candy, apple crisp, extra Chick-fil-A chocolate chip cookies because he'd stuff those in from the media. Grayson said blue Powerade with Snickers peanut butter square. Colt mentioned just give me a Dr. Pepper and David sunflower seeds or maybe a bag of jerky. And then Ashley mentioned go to Quick Trip. I'm a creature of habit. I always look for Quick Trip because they have reasonably priced gas. I can get a Dr. Pepper with real sugar, a Vice that I will keep out of the home but will indulge on long road trips.
Yeah.
So that's a little something different. That's on SicEm365. And by the way, the topic or questions or polls brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Thanks to Jay Errett. He'll be joining this radio show as a sponsor right now this month. Also,
Appreciate
don't
them
forget
very much.
Yes, sir. The Willis Law Firm chat room on the premium board. Riverbend Liquor and Wine text 254-339-1122. In fact, I think Matt in D.C. just jumped in on that. Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue phone line 254-339-1122, and the Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac Baylor hotline and the app. Which, a bunch of you are listening on the app, and we've tweaked it a little bit more since yesterday. Brought to you by Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Come by. Let's be friends. This is SicEm365 Radio. Live crawfish is back. The 30-pound bags of live crawfish, as delicious as you can imagine, back at Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. $3 a pound, 30-pound live crawfish bags are available. You order by Thursday at noon. You can pick up your customized order anytime on Friday afternoon until 6 p.m. And the drive-thru now open at Waco Custom Marketplace Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can still order what you want from their butcher shop, including beef and poultry, seafood, and also pork. And, of course, their bakery. You can order from their bakery. You can go online, WacoCustomMarketplace.com, or go by the drive-thru. Waco Custom Marketplace, live crawfish available Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We are open to support our community through this crisis. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Our communities are facing unprecedented times. At Boozer's Jewelers, we care about you and your family. If you're like me, your home has unwanted or unused jewelry lying around. they can have value, and that means we can turn that jewelry into instant cash. This is a great way to get the most value from your unwanted jewelry. At Boozer's Jewelers, we buy all kinds of unused jewelry. So give us a call and let us give you peace of mind and cash for your unwanted or unused jewelry.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
We are facing some unique challenges at this time. We want to do our part to support not only our community, but our medical providers who are really overtasked right now. Governor Greg Abbott has required dental offices to postpone all elective dental procedures, but still be available for dental emergencies. At this time, dental emergencies are those that are defined as something that would make somebody consider going to the emergency room for treatment. We're offering to see you at our office Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8 to noon, and we will waive all fees. We're doing this to support the community and to support the medical system. This will allow the overtasked medical community to focus on the truly needy at this time. In the midst of what seems to be so much gloomy news, we want to send a positive signal of our faith in our community and in each other. We're all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're 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 all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We're all in this together. Thank you and God bless.
This is SicEm365 Radio. Here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Thanks to the Cutlers, Don and Jim Cutler, the great national voices of ESPN, but they are our voices for SicEm365 Radio. Thank you. That's also going to be a little nugget in our book that we write about what happened in mid-March until now. So here is a list of the quarterbacks in the Super Bowl era that goes how many years? How many years are there?
54,
like 54? Right? In the Super Bowl era, the names of the quarterbacks who have 40 wins and 15,000 yards passing in their first 4 years. How many do you think is this list?
10.
Craig?
12.
2.
Oh, wow.
Dan Marino and Dak.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me that Dak's on the list.
40 wins, 15,000 passing yards or more in their first 4 years. Dan Marino, and he took a team to a Super Bowl, immediately lost, and Dak Prescott.
There's very little that Dak can do to completely win over the Cowboy faithful, in that they've kind of painted him as this guy of, he's good, but he's not great. They haven't won the Super Bowl with him. And now, look, Mike McCarthy's there. I think he'll be the number one until people get tired of McCarthy if he doesn't do a good job. But Dak will be the number one target, and he won't have the safety net of, Jason Garrett's put the handcuffs on him. But honestly, all he's done is win and put up numbers.
Yeah, pretty much. And, for anybody that wants to, I guess, float the idea of, he's going to be commanding so much money and he could use it elsewhere, and is he really worth it? Well, I mean, that's what the market says he's worth. So, yeah, that's what he's worth. And, any idea of, like we had these rumors like a couple months ago. People were like, I don't think the Cowboys are going to re-sign him, and it's going to turn into this, then this, and this. And, what is your other option? This is a franchise. Remind yourselves. It's a franchise that when they drafted Dak, that was their backup option. They lucked into how good he is. They, dadgum near, drafted a quarterback who's not even in the league 4 years later in Paxton Lynch, and quite frankly got lucky.
And would have taken Connor Cook, too, if he'd been there.
Got lucky that Paxton Lynch had gotten picked up, and got lucky that Connor Cook had gotten picked up and has done nothing with the Raiders, and that Dak was sitting there and they wanted to get a quarterback. And so this guy who they probably had as their third, maybe fourth choice, just so happened to fit the bill at the time, and all he's done is gone on to put up numbers like that. So I think any talk of any option other than Dak, it could have been Paxton Lynch, and you could have been already having to have drafted a couple other quarterbacks.
Yeah, could have been going through that stretch after Aikman.
And this is one of those things where you listen to the local beat writers more than you should listen to the national beat writers on things like this. Because have you heard Jane Slater, Jacques Taylor, Calvin Watkins, Todd Archer, Mike Fisher, any of those people that are there every day, cover them every day, John Machota, any of those guys, have they ever said the Cowboys are going to move on from Dak?
No.
Not
Nothing
once.
even close to it.
Here's a note. Damian Woody, because I hear this a lot, and it might have some validity to it, but all of this talk, RE quarterbacks and percentage of cap, is management's way of controlling cost. Chances of reaching the Super Bowl without high-level quarterback play is slim in today's era. It's not the player's job to take one for the team. It's the club's job to procure and develop talent within the cap.
Yes. That's absolutely true.
Seems pretty simple.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
And they did, you could say, yeah, they fell into Dak because there were 3 other teams, or 32 teams that said no to him 3 rounds and then maybe a half another round. But they did pick him, and they could have picked somebody else, and they could have moved up, as you mentioned, with Paxton Lynch or whatever. This is a franchise that has had, they had that stretch of disgusting because they followed a stretch of Meredith, Morton, Danny White, a couple of others, Troy Aikman. And so anything other than that was like, my God.
You left out Staubach, but yeah.
I thought, I'm sorry, Staubach.
He was okay. You might want to mention him.
Okay, Meredith, Morton, Staubach,
White.
Danny White, and Aikman.
Yeah.
And so anything after that, you're going to have, my God, even the sun sometimes doesn't always shine bright.
Well, and they did. They had like a 15 quarterback run there for a few years period that was
so
all
then
bad.
They fall into getting fortunate with Romo. Now, they had to go give him a little bit more, 15,000 or whatever. But someone could have picked him up in the 7th round. Carter could have not smoked pot, and he would have been on the practice squad. And then they get Dak. Think about since Aikman, Romo undrafted, Dak 4th round pick. Mm-hmm. Now, they got to get credit because they actually did go get them, even though why them? Why? And then you look at some teams that can't, find a quarterback.
Well, Dak was QB3. Dak was QB3,
Exactly.
right? He wasn't even quarterback 2.
And so Romo happens because Quincy Carter can't stay clean. Dak happens because Romo has a career-ending injury.
And Kellen Moore broke his leg, which Craig and I don't want to go over.
Yeah,
we saw it.
10 feet away.
Yeah.
When we come back, Santana Dotson. We'll talk to him about quarterback play, but his time with Baylor, also long stretch with the Green Bay Packers. He won a Super Bowl early there. This is SicEm365 Radio. One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction with a team of 24 experienced agents who are excited about serving you. Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like these, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illness and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI. And please, remember to follow CDC guidelines and practice social distancing. Stay home, except for the essentials, and be safe. Together, we'll get through this.
We are facing some unique challenges at this time. We want to do our part to support not only our community, but our medical providers who are really overtasked right now. Governor Greg Abbott has required dental offices to postpone all elective dental procedures, but still be available for dental emergencies. At this time, dental emergencies are those that are defined as something that would make somebody consider going to the emergency room for treatment. We're offering to see you at our office Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8 to noon, and we will waive all fees. We're doing this to support the community and support the medical system. This will allow the overtasked medical community to focus on the truly needy at this time. In the midst of what seems to be so much gloomy news, we want to send a positive signal of our faith in our community and in each other. We're all in this together.
We're all in this.
Dr. Kent Petty wants you to be the highest performance man you want to be. Are you sluggish, lack energy? Do you suffer from low sex drive? Petty Clinic Low T offers discounted comprehensive lab work to check on your various levels that can make a difference. It's not only time for you to be the man you want to be with higher energy and stamina and improved sex drive, but also the healthiest and high performance man. Screening for cardiac heart disease risk, EKG, cholesterol panel, blood pressure monitoring, testosterone or growth hormone deficiency, male infertility, hepatitis C, and prostate cancer screening. Petty Clinic Low T offers replacement therapy for testosterone or growth hormones, weight management therapy, and nutritional advice. It's not only time for you to be the man you want to be with higher energy, stamina, and improved sex drive, but the healthiest and highest performance man. PettyClinicLowT.com, PettyClinicLowT.com on Old Hewitt Road, just off Highway 84 in Woodward. PettyClinicLowT.com.
This is SicEm365 Radio.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on SicEm365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, located at the Imperial Drive exit off Loop 340 in Waco. Proud supporters of all Baylor Athletics.
Matt in D.C. earlier today on the where do you go for a convenience store, snack for a trip. Matt in D.C. I thought it was Matt in D.C. Where'd it go?
I don't know, but like I said, I read that question wrong when I first saw it. Buc-ee's was the definite number one immediate choice in my head. I could spend
you're looking
an hour
at a
in
place
there.
To stop,
and just look at all the different offerings that they have. But the gas station after taking a trip this past weekend, it's just a there and back type of a thing. I'm not as sure what that landscape's going to look like moving forward. People are still going to have to stop and get gas and all that, but I just wonder if that's going to be something that changes as well.
All right, we'll have Santana Dotson momentarily. Matt said Dr. Pepper Monster Slim Jim.
No,
from Matt in D.C. on the Riverbend Liquor and Wine text line. We're now joined by Santana Dotson, Packers and Baylor legend and philanthropist is what Santana gave me. How you doing, man?
Good, man. I'm in the house in Houston, man. Social distancing, peeking out the curtains, man. How about yourselves? Y'all doing all right?
Yeah, well, we're doing well, and we've been able to. We started this show like this is week 6, and we launched it on SicEm365, and it's been a lot of fun. We've gone down trip memory lanes with Hall of Famers, Heisman Trophy winners, former Baylor legends, and obviously wanted you as well. So what's the most dangerous thing you've done in the last 2 months?
Oh, wow. The most dangerous. A trip to the grocery store.
Oh, my God.
As crazy as it sounds, I've got a couple of, I got 4 kids, 4 and 3 girls. And my daughters, I've got one at Oklahoma. She's a volleyball player that they send home at spring break. And then I've got a 13-year-old soccer player that she's going to be a freshman in high school. So as crazy as it sounds, I've been trying to keep them focused and working out. And, if it's rough on adults, it's rough on kids. So just trying to keep their mind on the right stuff. But they are wearing me out playing the cafeteria lady 2-3 times a day because they are eating me out of house and home.
Did you have to participate in the homeschooling?
No, I didn't. I couldn't do it. I could not do it. I put that all on Mom.
After all of this, don't you think teachers need to get more money?
I agree. I definitely agree. And not only that, kudos to first responders and teachers. And, it took us a while to even figure out how to come to grips, how to go back to work, how to deal with your day-to-day. every teacher and school district and administrator in the nation, they pretty much had 2 or 3 days to figure out how to educate the next generation. And, you know, they weren't able to do it. They kept kids home from school, and they said, okay, we're going to go on the internet. So these teachers, you know, just picked up the ball and the proverbial ball and ran with it. And, you know, the next day, the next week, they were attentive and, you know, they were trying to do their best to get our kids educated. So not only are they undervalued, they need to be recognized for the strides and the things that they're doing to date, just to make sure that they get the information to the masses. I actually have a friend, and she's a teacher, and for instance, her kids or her students, her school gets 500 meals a week to distribute. But some of those kids are in the marginalized communities. So out of those 500 meals, she's taking 75, 80 of those meals to the people's houses, you know, getting to make sure, because they don't have cars, they don't have transportation. And we know our meals are a big key for kids that aren't able to eat at home. They're able to eat at school. So, you know, she does that once, twice a week without getting recognized for it, because she knows it's that important to her, that cause, to make sure her kids are eating.
Santana, you're looking over, and we'll get to Baylor in a little bit, but just doing the research for the interview today, I had forgotten the defense, just the 4 on the defensive line in your Super Bowl champion year for the Packers were Reggie White, Gilbert Brown, Sean Jones, and Gabe Wilkins. Like, was there a guy on that rotation that anybody would want to go against, play in and play out?
No, not at all. And that was one of the best things about playing on that defensive line. That we were some bad boys, and that year we went to the Super Bowl. Quick story. I came from Tampa, where I achieved great individual success. But I recall, to your point, the first game stepping out, we played the San Diego Chargers, who were a playoff team at the time, and we played them week 1, and you could see the oh no, oh damn look on the offensive lineman's face as soon as that huddle broke the first play. You know, like, who are we going to block and who are we going to double team? And and I was always the trash talker of the group, so my response was, nobody. I see you looking, and y'all not going to be able to block anybody on this side of the ball.
Santana, I grew up watching Reggie White like everybody else did, and gone far too soon, obviously, but still a legendary figure. I mean, just being around that man, is there any insight you can give us on just what the experience was like working side by side with him and just the type of player and man that he was?
Yeah, he was a great player. He was an intense player. And, you know, I don't know. You never say never. Probably the closest we've seen to him to date would be a guy by the name of J.J. Watt. He's outstanding. However, Reggie had the ability that when, you know, sacks aren't just a statistical a number, but sacks and pressures. Reggie had the ability to, when the sack had to happen, if it was the fourth quarter and we had to get off the field, we had to have a sack to give the offense, Brett Favre and the offense, the ball back, you just knew Reggie was going to make that play and find a way to do it. So he had the ability to not just rack up those outstanding numbers that we look at on the sheet of paper, but when you had to have that sack, you had to sack. You know, so his intensity was by far, he was more intense than anybody ever played with. And with that being said, when people ask me about Reggie's stories, you know, he was a mentor. He was great. I was fortunate enough to be seated right next to him, and we were locker mates in the locker room. And the conversation never was about football. You know, it was always about working in the community, being a better husband, being a better father, supporting those that supported us. And he wouldn't belabor the issue and beat us over the head with it. But it was just those conversations. You knew that he cared and he was sincere with everything he was saying. And he just always, the reason, you know, people talk about me and my foundation, which I've had for 20, 25 years now. A lot of that I attribute to guys like Reggie White and another guy by the name of Keith Jackson, if you remember him from Oklahoma. They were great at showing me as a younger player how to take the activities I was doing on the football field and the name equity that I was building, and to bridge that gap and bring it back and bring those that were interested in myself and things I was doing back to my prospective community.
You were, you hear a lot of times about when someone's a steal in the draft, and a lot of times it's the quarterback or running back or a few other people. But, a lot of people may not realize you're an All-American at Baylor. You were the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. You had 10 sacks your first year, and you were a fifth-round pick. Wouldn't that be considered a steal?
Yes, you are exactly right. With the draft that went on a few weeks ago, that always brings back those conversations and those questions. And, I always tell guys that you just hope and pray for the right situation. And that's what I got being a fifth-round player. I had those accolades in college. I ended up having an injury my senior year that really inhibited me from doing my best in those senior bowls and the combine and things like that. So my stock dropped. But I do recall a lot of guys that had outperformed from Texas A&M and other places. I remember them getting drafted. They played the same position, but they were getting drafted before me. So I remember, I just recall, I said, I just want the right situation. And that right situation was Tampa. And, what they did at Tampa, Floyd Peters was there. Floyd Peters had instituted, a lot of people know the Minnesota defense that Tony Dungy ran now with the Tampa 2. He instituted that in Minnesota. So you had guys by the name like John Randall, Chris Dolman, Keith Millard. He had raised those guys. And he turned on the film. He said, Santana, there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to perform or outperform these guys. We just have to do the work. So I bought the work hat, and Floyd Peters and Eddie Kayak, my position coaches, they gave me the detail and turned me into professional. And they allowed me to, play the game I played and the game I loved for 11 years. Allowed me to be able to feed my family and, pick and choose the businesses and everything else I do after my career, post-career. So kudos to those guys as well.
You left the Bucs right before Tony Dungy got there. Then you went into the Packers. Was the Packers kind of a no-brainer situation for you because they were knocking on the door of the Super Bowl?
Yeah, you know what? I had that individual success at Tampa, and but football is a team sport, and Green Bay had come off the NFC Championship loss the year before, and it was a no-brainer in the sense that going into it, I definitely wanted to going into free agency. I definitely wanted to look at a team that was in the playoffs. And every team that was in the playoffs ended up calling my agent at the time. And then after he got off the phone with Ron Wolf, Reggie White called me directly. And this is a guy that, Reggie White, which I teased him about it because, he was playing for the Memphis Showboats and the Philadelphia Eagles while I was still in high school. So I used to tease him about that all the time. But when Reggie White calls you, one of your heroes that you've watched forever, and tell you that, he invites you to be a part of something great, I hung up the phone and, I told my wife at the time, look, I'm going. And, she thought I was crazy because, in Tampa, it was about 75, 80 degrees in January. And then she looked at the thermometer or the temperature in Green Bay, and it was minus 17.
Mm-hmm. She said, "Hey,"
she said, "I'll go with you, baby, but you better give me a big coat."
or hey, have fun in Green Bay. I'm staying in Tampa. Oh my! Right. You want to get him fired up? You want to get Santana? It's fun to have you. Great to have you, Santana. All right, so I'm on a committee, and I think there's like 8 to 12 of us. It's called UIL 100. They're going to come up with the 100 greatest high school football players, not in order. The 100 greatest high school football rivalries, and the 100 greatest single-season teams. And I was in East Texas. 83 Dangerfield is one gets brought up. But my first two people I put 83 Dangerfield, not in order, and 85 Yates. And we should just stop the list and move on right there.
You could stop it right there. You could stop it. Now, the conversation was always 80 because, I went to Baylor in 87. So when was Dallas Carter? They were back to
88.
back. Was it
88? 88 was the team that was, that got it taken away, but had Jesse Armstead and a bunch of others. Yeah.
Yes. And everybody talked about it. That was a talented team, but that was always the conversation. The Dangerfield, the Dallas Carter, and the Houston Yates, who would come out on top. And all I could say at the time was, as far as Division I athletes, Santana Dotson didn't even start at his position because that state championship team was my junior year.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a guy by the name of James Good that ended up playing for the Atlanta Falcons that played defensive end. We had another guy by the name of Larry Gill that went to Mississippi Valley. So we had guys it was like 29 guys that got Division I scholarships off that team. So you had guys that didn't even start that were getting scholarships. I mean, when we rolled up the bus, the game was over.
You could tell.
Yeah.
So did you, like David Mims, Willie Everett, they were at Baylor, I think might have been there when you were there, or at least might have been towards. So
the same time, I played with David Mims. Willie Everett was a senior. I took a recruiting trip, and I don't think Thomas Everett was not my host, but he was in Waco. So maybe it was after his rookie year.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I first met TE, was when I was on my recruiting trip up to Waco.
Yeah, and he, of course, wasn't even on the 83 Dangerfield team. You talk about that as well. I was wondering if there were a little trash talking during those times.
It always was. There was a lot to talk about in the dining hall.
So the 91 season that you guys played at Baylor, first of all, had one of the weirdest scores ever. You won 9-5 over Arkansas, which I don't know how many 9-5 games you're going to see in football. And that was the number 24 team in the country. That team was until, that's one of the better ones, second in the Southwest Conference. 21-11 went over Texas to end the regular season. What do you remember most about that team?
Man, what I remember most about that team was just the camaraderie. A lot of those guys we had played with. You go in I was a 17-year-old freshman, and you have your eyes on the prize, and that was probably one of the better teams, best defenses that I played on. That and the defense with Robert Blackman and James Francis is their senior years. So I just remember we're looking at that schedule at the beginning of the year, and we had to go play a bunch of places, like you said, the Arkansas, the Texas. I believe we went to Texas A&M that year. No, they came to us. But so we had a few games on the road, and we talked about those challenges and how if we were able to overcome those challenges, that we'd be able to go down in that Baylor folklore history book. So I remember looking at that at the beginning of the season and getting ready to take a bite out of all that, and trying to make sure that we put our stamp to come out of that thing as Baylor legends.
And you beat what was it not defending champion Colorado in the second game?
Yeah, we beat defending champion Colorado, which I don't think they had lost at home in 2-3 years. You had that air raid attack, and David Klinger was a Heisman Trophy candidate. So we had to go to University of Houston and take care of those guys. So there were really some challenging games back then that we had to, roll our sleeves up and get ready for.
8-4, lost to Indiana in the bowl game, but beat Texas 21-11 in Austin to close out the regular season.
Santana, as a defensive player and an alum, what was it like for you to see what this team did this past season, competing for a Big 12 championship and what turned out to be Matt Rule's final year, but, for a school that was known for its offense for a good portion of time there to now be known for their defense and have the season they had? What'd you think?
I was very proud of those guys, particularly for the guys that when the whole issue happened 4 or 5 years ago, the guys that stuck through it and stayed. I was so excited for those guys because the majority of those guys that were there and seniors this year, let's face it, they stayed because they had nowhere to go. So the fact that they fought through it and were able to get to the winner's circle at the end of the season, I was very excited for them. Defensively, I must be honest, I was concerned at the beginning of the year because I was hearing so much about this 3-man front. And, as a defensive player, as a defensive lineman, I'm like, I don't know if they can stay in this, run the 38 for a whole year and be able to be successful with it, and they were. They were. So let me be the first to say I was wrong on the airwaves. I did not think it would work, and they found a way to make it happen. And I was so excited for them. And if you look at the teams that we lost to down the stretch, your Georgias, your Oklahomas, I have no doubt that if Matt Rule would have stayed and getting the recruits, the same type of recruits that those schools got, that we'd have a fighting chance in those games. So I'm very excited about what they did this year.
And now they get a guy that follows up with Rule and Phil Snow and what they did, and now Dave Aranda, part of the national championship team. I hate that because they're going through this transition and there are no practices, but another defensive-type mind that's the coach at Baylor.
Yeah. And it's these things are cyclical the way they work, right? Because if you ask people about the Big 12, it's an all offensive league and they score an offense, offense crazy. But when you look at it, the better running teams and the better defenses typically stay on top in the division. So I think it's an outstanding choice. The head coaching choice that they made, I think it was an outstanding choice that they made. And, like you said earlier, the thing I hate, particularly in the first year, is they don't have the off season. Yeah. Because a lot of things that we don't see, we show up on Saturdays for the tailgating and the Baylor line and things like that. But a lot of things we see on that field on Saturdays are a direct derivative of what they do in the off season away from the cameras. So I'm really hating that they can't get in front of the coach and have those workouts, have those mentorship periods. It's going to make it rough for them coming up this fall.
I agree. That's the question: is can they find a way to know what the heck they're doing together? Although they seem to be doing a lot of stuff with the Zoom.
It's a resilient bunch. Yeah. If anybody can do it, it'll be these guys.
Exactly. Man, hey, it's great to hear from you. Stay careful. Be careful of those trips to the grocery store. And
man, ain't that the truth?
I don't know how much your grocery bill is with the 4 kids, but I got a feeling at times that's a chunk. That is a chunk.
I didn't know girls ate so much, man. I got a boy and 3 girls, and these girls are wearing my refrigerator out.
Hey, man, great to hear from you, Santana. Appreciate it so much for being a part of the show.
All right, take care, fellas.
All right, that's great. Santana Dotson, drafted by the Bucs in the 5th round, Rookie of the Year defensively, 10 sacks. I think he always had 3 or 4 sacks or more every year until his last year, Washington. Of course, his Redskins, he's done. That's what they're good at, getting guys after they're done. And on the 91 Baylor team, that was an 8-4 team. 85 Yates, All-American.
He was at the Bucs right at the end of the Hugh Culverhouse era.
Yes.
And so Hugh Culverhouse, one of the worst owners in the history of sports, and well known as kind of a guy who was a racist and would say some things like that. And then he was bankrupt. How many NFL owners go bankrupt now? Considering owning, once you buy the team, it essentially is just a guaranteed check for you.
Yes.
To do nothing. I mean, look at the Bengals make money every year. They're mediocre at best, without, all those apparel sales that some of the other big money teams have. And then, they get sold to the Glazers and he goes and wins the Super Bowl. It seemed to work out for everybody, but that was a weird era in Tampa. That was right when I'd moved there. And so we would go to Bucs games occasionally. And I remember just as you grow up a Cowboy fan, and even the Cowboys had just gotten to where they were elite, and I just felt bad for all the people who were fans of the Bucs, because you're like, what is this team throwing out there? You get a guy like Santana Dotson, but then they put literally nothing around it.
Yeah, they struggled. That team was 5-11 the first year there, but that says a lot. He's Rookie of the Year, 10 sacks on a 5-11 team. All right, a couple of notes to wrap up this 4 o'clock hour, brought to you by Waco Custom Marketplace. 4 o'clock hour, former Bulls center Will Perdue on The Last Dance. How about that? We'll do that. Plus, we have much more to come, including Baylor AD Mac Rhodes, David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com, and John McClain, Houston Chronicle, SicEm365 Radio.
Are you looking to buy a new home? Are you looking to sell your home? Are you trying to upsize or downsize? You need a realtor who's going to listen to what you have to say, who's in your corner, who's going to guide you through anything you have to encounter, who's going to find what your wants and needs are when it comes to a house, who's going to find you a great place at the price that you want. You contact my good friend Lance Donaldson and the Donaldson family team, brokered by eXp Realty. Let them be your go-to source as you search for that perfect home. Call my buddy Lance, 254-214-3713, or visit his webpage for the most current listings at www.lancedonaldson.exprealty.com.
Waco, Texas, our city of remarkable growth and opportunity with an even brighter future ahead. What makes it all work is our people living, working, and growing together. And we're proud to be from here, helping and serving the community we call home. We are the First National Bank of Central Texas, taking great pride in being locally owned and operated. Come see us at any of our 5 convenient locations. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Hi, this is Tyler Holcomb, Athletic Director and Head Football Coach at Bishop Louis Riker, and you're listening to SicEm365 Radio with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
This is Waco, and this is Boozer's Jewelers. When locals want luxurious jewelry and at a competitive price, they come here. This is Brad Boozer. He's the owner of Boozer's Jewelers. Boozer's is the premier wedding ring store. They specialize in loose diamonds and wedding rings. At Boozer's, they have 7 jewelry counters dedicated to wedding rings and diamonds only. They also specialize in heirloom jewelry, custom jewelry, watches, and much, much more. So what are you waiting for? Stop on in today and discover why the locals trust Boozer's for their jewelry.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recalled drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com, principal office in Houston, Texas.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas. Our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. In today's world, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less, sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. We even offer financing. Everything's included in the price, and more importantly, you'll not get a bill in the mail later on. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule an appointment safely from home, online in minutes at idealmri.com, or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI. And please remember to follow CDC guidelines and practice social distancing. Stay home, except for the essentials, and be safe, and together we'll get through this at idealmri.com.
This is SicEm365 Radio.
58 seconds to play. Will Purdue will win for the slam. Half a dozen for Will. 124 to 93.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
We'll have Baylor Director of Athletics Mac Rhodes at 4:20. Also, Will Purdue in a moment. He played in the NBA, played on some of those great Chicago Bulls teams. Towards the end of the Bulls Jordan dynasty, he was playing for San Antonio. He's 4 times he won an NBA championship, 3 times the first three-peat with Chicago. And then in 99, was that the Spurs?
Yeah, he was with the Spurs, yeah.
Yeah. Was that the Spurs and David Robinson? And
yeah, it was. I think that was early Duncan. I think that might have been the one that was the strike shortened year that they had and then won. They beat the Knicks.
Yeah, it might have been. We're trying to effort. Of all the former producers we have, Dylan Chapman right now running the mothership along with Paul Catalina, David Smoke, and Craig. From Zach Burke to Jason Behringer to Jordan Victorin to others. Garrett Ross. Who was the best at efforting? Who was the one that handled that better than anybody else, but also who's the one that you just started sweating? Efforting.
I think, the best at efforting was probably, Jordan Victorin was pretty good at efforting, even though I don't like using that word as a verb. Let me try to get Will Perdue again.
Yeah, I just sent him a text as well. Will Perdue, I've seen him. You know, we had Rick Talander after the first 2 episodes of The Last Dance. 7 and 8 ran Sunday, very much deep because of the loss of Jordan's father and all of that. And then it's amazing. I remember how we just like could not get enough of The Last Dance before it even started. And then it did. I was like, oh my God, can we just run all 10 episodes in a row? And here we are coming up on episodes number 9 and also 10. Will Perdue, good dude. So we'll see if we can finally get him locked in. Thanks to Santana Dotson, who's also a part of, he has that foundation. He actually does a lot of work in the Houston area towards social work, extending with his foundation all the way back to Waco and Baylor. Serves on the Board of Advocates for Baylor's Diana R. Garland School of Social Work. He does a lot of work, does a lot of help prep work for students that are about to take various college exams like the ACT. So Santana Dotson, he sounded like he was having a really, really good time.
Yeah, outside of his grocery bills, he was doing great. Just had a lot of grocery bills to now account for with 4 kids. But, yeah, I can imagine, you know, and with younger kids too, you know, and you're beating drums over here.
Sorry.
Is that Woodrow's tail?
No, that's me dropping my phone. I was trying to send you a text to make sure I had the correct number on Will Perdue.
You want to share it on the air like we did with
I don't want to do Trevor Bauer.
But I was saying with younger kids especially, there's this thing about being bored and just eating out of boredom. So, you know, now with everybody at home for as long as they are, I can imagine that all the chips and everything else in that house has been taken to task or taken down. So, yeah, a lot of grocery trips at a time. You don't really want to go to the grocery store, so it's quite the predicament that we're in.
Yeah, I've maneuvered through it. It's interesting to see what's on the shelf now compared to what used to be.
Is toilet paper back, or are we still?
No, that's not even the right number, Paul.
Is toilet paper still off the shelves entirely? Because I have not seen an actual roll in about 2 months now, and I'm not even joking when I say that.
I did have to go into HEB because I forgot one ingredient to something I was making the other day, which I don't like to do right now. It was packed, but yeah, they had it.
What did you?
Okay.
Toilet paper?
Yeah, I was just saying I haven't seen any.
You walk into one of them, like the one on 19th Street, and there's like an entire crate full, hundreds of.
I have not seen a physical roll of toilet paper on a shelf in the 5-6 trips that I've made over the last 2 months.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
I'm telling you right now.
To the same 2 places, and so maybe it's just those places or the time that I go, and I've tried to vary the times that I go, but I have not seen a single roll of toilet paper in the 6 or so trips I've made in the last 2 months.
The 3 or 4 things you couldn't get was that, paper towels, and of course, like any kind of disinfectant wipes, and they're all now starting to be much more available.
It's coming back.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
How about Will Perdue as a guest? The Last Dance has been through episodes 7 and 8, 9 and 10 coming up Sunday night. It's hard to imagine that the docu-series on ESPN is already over. Will Perdue joins us on SicEm365 Radio. Will, first of all, thank you very much for being a part of it. Has the reaction to the series, the documentary series, blown you away?
It really has. We're seeing the numbers averaging 6 million per episode per se, but I've done interviews with the BBC, International, Australia, Canada. That's not even including, Netflix has all the international rights, and those things drop locally on midnight Sunday, so most of those people don't watch till Mondays, but that's not even including international numbers. It's been unbelievable, how people just can't get enough of this over the last 4.5 weeks.
Were you surprised that Michael wanted to do this extensively?
Not really, but what I am surprised of is, though, I've had doing a little radio back in Chicago. I've had Jason, I think it's Hire, the director that did this whole thing. He talked about how not once did Michael tell him or his crew, no, you can't show that, and how he even mentioned how they got a email from his executive crew talking about how they needed to change a few things to make sure that they showed the true aspect of how teammates dealt with him and what we thought about him. I mean, everybody saw what I saw last week. He saw it, said, hey, that's good for me. Keep it in there.
Will, I saw in another interview that you did where you talked about Michael's father, his late father, and how you in particular had a better relationship with him than Michael himself. As far as he goes, can you just discuss and elaborate on that relationship or your takeaways from being around Michael's father and just the man that he was?
I mean, first of all, they had a really close relationship. We kind of joked that, there's MJ and his shadow. So MJ and his dad. But, the thing I always tell people is that, MJ would come over to practice. His dad wouldn't drive with him. His dad would come over a little later. And then after practice, when MJ would leave, a lot of times his dad would stay and just talk to the other guys. And on numerous occasions, if I was out there shooting free throws or jumpers and nobody else was out there, he'd come out and rebound. And he was just a normal guy. And when my friends would come to the games with me, when they'd fly into town to go to games, and Mr. Jordan would always come over to say hello to me and say, hey, who do you got here? And introduce himself as James. He'd never say, hey, I'm Michael's dad. He would just always say his first name. And he'd always make sure he got all my friends' names and the whole thing. And as we're walking off, they'd be like, who's that? I said, oh, that's Michael's dad. And they're like, really? He's just a normal guy. He just loved to talk. He was very sociable. And just, he loved his son. They had a great relationship. It's like one of those relationships when you see a father-son, not to slight my relationship with my dad, but you're jealous of it because they're so close together. But yet it was almost like he was extending himself and his family to everybody that was part of the Bulls team, which I thought was really cool. And, even when my parents would come to the games, when he was alive, he would make sure to talk to them and say hello and ask them how they're doing, even though he only saw them like twice a year. It was the guy went well and beyond, who he could have been to being just an average guy that everybody really enjoyed being around. Definitely the life of the party.
Well, one of the things that Jordan is once in a lifetime, a Tiger Woods in golf, Michael in basketball, and you had a chance to play with him. Is it impossible to really, even if the documentary has shown how competitive and how he drove himself to be the greatest, perhaps, player of all time?
Well, I think they're doing a good job of showing it. I mean, it's pretty accurate. Now, I've had a lot of people talk about, how accurate is this? I think they've done a really nice job considering all the hours of footage that they had. And, it wasn't easy. That was something you had to adapt to learn how to play with him. But I think what people are also realizing is just how hard it was to be Michael Jordan. Everybody talks about, oh, man, I'd love to be Michael Jordan. But I think they're talking about Michael Jordan, the basketball player, not necessarily Michael Jordan, the person. I think it was in episode 5 and 6 a week and a half ago where it showed him just sitting on a couch in his hotel room talking about, this is not the type of life you should be jealous of because, he couldn't go out. When we were on the road, he spent most of his time in his hotel room. We went to him. He didn't get out much. He got out a little bit, but not a lot. And but also to think about, how hard it was for him to be that good, that often. I always talk about, even we as teammates were amazed how he was always on. And the last thing I'll say on that question is he did an outstanding job of representing us, representing the organization, being the face of the organization, always dealing with the media. He didn't skirt his responsibilities. He was always there, and that made life for us as his teammates easier because he was there, they could ask him all the questions they didn't come to us asking us questions about Michael because he made himself available. They could ask him directly.
There's a lot of talk about how much he grinded on his teammates. Dealing with it at the time, is it one of those things, like I had a teacher that really wore me out in high school, and then after I was done, I really respected him. At the time, how hard was it? And then is it something you appreciated more later, or was it when you won the titles you appreciated it?
Well, I was fortunate enough when I came to the team, I became friends with John Paxson, who had already been there and played with Michael. And so he kind of had, set the groundwork for me about what to expect. This is who he is. This is his approach. Nothing personal. This is just who this guy is. You'll adapt, but you've never seen anything like him or it. So, the one thing I never thought, even though you see in the documentary, he gives guys a lot of crap. He loves to talk smack, but it was never personal. And people watching they take it that way, but it never was. I never really thought about it being a problem at the time. I thought I adapted pretty quickly. My main question for me was, I never questioned whether I could play in the league. I was confident of that. I just questioned whether I would ever be good enough to get his respect. Now, it took a little while, but I eventually got there. But, as we watch it now, it comes across kind of harsh because, I was fortunate enough to be traded to San Antonio for Dennis Rod, but we had a different culture, a different approach. It wasn't as, there wasn't as much animosity. There wasn't as much drama. There wasn't as much tension, but we still won a championship. So there's, as they say, different ways to skin a cat, but that's just who Michael was. Everybody fell in line. And quite honestly, at the time, you really didn't think twice about it.
Well, there's been a lot covered, obviously, in this documentary so far. Different people spotlighted. I mean, Michael's been, obviously the one getting the bulk of the attention, but others have had their fair share as well. Is there a particular story or player that's been highlighted, or just, I guess, what's been your highlight personally of what you've seen so far?
A lot of it has been the memories that it's brought back, about how fun 91 was when we ended up winning that first championship. Even when I was watching, I kind of teared up a little bit when they showed Michael with it, even though I was standing right there, seeing Michael embracing the Larry O'Brien trophy. His dad's right next to him. He's just bawling because, as I mentioned in the documentary, they used my quote about really the only emotion we had seen out of him, when it came to basketball, was frustration and anger. Because he hadn't been able to beat the Pistons, hadn't been able to, win a championship. But, he eventually got there. Things of that nature. I know it's been pretty serious. Michael, I think, has been pretty honest with, the questions that's been asked of him. But at the same time, we had to remind people, we had fun, we enjoyed it. But I think it's also a reminder of just how hard it is to do that, how hard it is to maintain that level. But also, as you see, when you're that good for that long, I don't know if people get, winning fatigue. I mean, I even found myself, quite honestly, getting tired of watching the Patriots. I'm like, I've seen enough of them. I've had enough of Tom Brady. But then people be like, you guys, you were kind of part of the same thing. I'm like, oh, no. That was totally different. But then I realized, it really wasn't. It's just, that's just, and maybe it is fatigue for people. But when it's all said and done, I've just been amazed by how much interest there's been in this. And just to this day, the attention that Michael Jordan garners from even kids that never even saw him play, but were told about him, watched him on YouTube, and watch how their parents react when people talk about him.
It's interesting you talk about, I hate dynasties, and then you might be a fan of a team, or in your case, you were a player of someone that was like that as well. The way you won the first one by eliminating the evil of the Pistons and moving on, did that just, not only was it the first one, but did that make that even more sweet that was along the way?
Yeah, because we beat everybody it wasn't like somebody else beat the Pistons and then you didn't hear you didn't have to face the Pistons. We not only did we face them, but we swept them 4-0. Now, it wasn't easy, but yet we swept them 4-0, and then the disgust of them walking off the floor, kind of was the cherry on top to how people talked about, you guys beat them so bad that they didn't even want to shake your hands. They walked off the floor, and then they blamed it on the Celtics because the Celtics did it to them the year before. And, it's just we responded every time. And let's not forget also when we beat the Lakers for the championship in 91, we lost the first game at home. And everybody was like, oh, it's over. The Bulls don't have the experience. It takes time to walk in and win, and then we won 4 straight. We won in LA, so it was just like everything just kind of fell into place. But the one thing I always remind people of, that was 3 years in the making to get that first championship. A coaching change, player change, significant turnover. A lot happened in that 3 years. But I think we definitely, you saw not only Michael, but even though it wasn't on television, you had Bill Cartwright, a veteran, John Paxson, a veteran, other guys just to overcome with emotion because of the adversity that they had faced through their career, the fact that they thought maybe they would never win a championship. And I was just a dumb young guy. It was only my 3rd year in the league, and I'm like, oh, this is easy.
Yeah, you go. We're going to win one every year.
Yeah, one of the things that's jumped out at me, and just remembering it from when I was a kid, was how different the game is played now than it was then. I mean, the Pistons, you were catching elbows and getting punched in the kidneys, and those Knicks teams under Pat Riley were, essentially, it was like somebody had already slighted them and they wanted to fight before the game even started. There are just physical fouls. The games, I'm not trying to say it's better or worse, but the game is completely different now because of rule changes. Is it weird as a player to watch it now knowing that there's no way that there could be a Bad Boys anymore because that's just not the style of play?
Yeah, it wouldn't exist. Listen, I understand, the game has to grow. I understand the change of the game, analytics. The 3 is so much more important. It's kind of been interesting with working with NBC Sports Chicago. We've been doing, showing all the games from the 98 season. Right now they're in the process of showing the 6 games against the Utah Jazz. There were games in 1998 where the Jazz and the Bulls combined only shot like 23 threes. That's what a team shoots in a half now.
It's James Harden.
Yeah, but it's just, listen, is it more free-flowing? Yes. Is it more favorable towards the offense? Yes. But I think it's also a generational game. You hear a lot of people talk about, I don't like how the game's played now, or people that have now are like, well, I would never have been able to watch the game the way it was played back in the 80s and 90s. So I think it just depends on when you grew up and what you were taught or how you were taught about the game. That's what you appreciate. But it is nice occasionally to see people talk about the game and the rules were different and you were allowed to do a lot more on defense with the hand check and the forearm shiver and things of that nature.
Will Purdue won a world championship with San Antonio, won those 3 straight with Chicago. Appreciate your time. Really do. I know that you are getting just request after request, and for you to be on with us, you've been on the BBC, Chicago, all the places you mentioned. We appreciate it. It's been fantastic to have something to watch every Sunday evening, and I can't wait to see how it ends.
Well, neither have I. And I was one of the guys, I didn't get an advanced screening. Some guys did. So I watch it every Sunday night just like everybody else, and kind of interested to find out, 10 days from now, what am I going to do on Sunday? I'm going to be like, wait, there's going to be a big void. I don't know what I'm going to do.
I know. It's amazing that it's almost over because it was such a thirst, and it wasn't even supposed to begin until sometime, I guess, after
June,
the NBA Finals or whatever. Hey, Will.
During the final.
Yeah.
Yep.
Be safe. Thank you so much, and enjoy the feedback and the insight. We appreciate it. Have a great night.
All right. Thanks, guys.
That's Will Purdue. Will Purdue of the Chicago Bulls. Played with the Spurs a couple different times with the Bulls, and also ended his career with the Portland Trailblazers, 4-time NBA champion.
Yeah, we talk about overlapping coaches. That guy played for the 2 greatest coaches of the last 35 years in the NBA in Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich.
Yeah.
And it's not even – here's the thing. It's those 2 guys and nobody else.
Yeah, but it still will never compare to who did we have yesterday? We were talking about with the coaches. Who was our guest yesterday that's played for all the great coaches? from the Cowboys, played for...
Oh, Everson Walls.
Yes, thank you. Everson Walls. I don't know if anybody will compare to the resume of coaches that he played for and was around, but no, playing for Pop and Phil Jackson in this era of the NBA is as good as it gets. There's no doubt. And, just very interesting to get more insight to what we've already been seeing on TV every Sunday night and what has been a tremendous production and a tremendous documentary series. But, the more insight, the even more interesting it all becomes. And that just sounds like it was the best of times and the worst of times all wrapped up into one. But, what a look at those Bulls teams it's been, who I grew up loving and watching, and especially Michael Jordan.
All right, when we come back, it's Mack Rhodes, Director of Athletics at Baylor. They've got this, what is it called? Some sort of promotion they're doing to honor some of the student athletes, but much more on just college athletics next on SicEm365 Radio.
Alan Samuels presents the return of 0%. It's back. 0% for 72 and no payments for up to 120 days. Choose your car, truck, or SUV and get 0% financing with no payments for 120 days through Chrysler Capital. New Rams, new Jeeps, and new Dodge SUVs and minivans. Shop safely at our dealership. Shop and buy online, and we deliver test drives to you. Your friend in the car business. Alan Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction with a team of 24 experienced agents who are excited about serving you. Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recall drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com. Principal office located in Houston, Texas.
Do you love Friday Night Lights? Would you like to have a bigger role than just watching the action to ensure the games are played fairly and safely? The Waco football chapter of the Texas Association of Sports Officials, or TASO, can make that happen. The 2020 Texas high school football season is right around the corner, and we need you to be a part of it. There's a shortage of officials across the state in all sports, and you can help. If you love the game and want to be a part of the solution, you can help our local student athletes continue to participate in games they love. Never officiated before? Don't worry. Waco Football Chapter can help and prepare you to make the right call. And right now, Introduction to Football Officiating class is accepting registrations. Make your first grade call today by looking us up and contacting us on Facebook at Waco Football Chapter or at our website, wacofootballchapter.com. Find out more about the Waco Football Chapter of the Texas Association of Sports Officials, or TASO. Go to wacofootballchapter.com.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Hi, this is Conley football coach Shane Anderson. I'm a proud listener and supporter of the all-new SicEm365 radio show with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, and Balcones whiskey, including single malt, hot still, baby blue, French oak, rye, and brimstone. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries, celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas. Our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Trust the doctors that Baylor trusts. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades, is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments Brokers, Tom Albers, Brad Wilson, and Ben Erlinson. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Every Tuesday, Baylor Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades, for pretty much as many times as he can, all sorts of meetings and stuff that he has to do, and, of course, during this time. Mack, thanks again. Hope you're doing well. Paul, Catalina, Craig, Smoke, and David with you. Can you try to explain what it has been like to be someone who runs an athletic department, watching what your staff, coaches, or administrative staff at Baylor or any school has done, and what the student athletes and how they've reacted to the last 2 or 3 months?
Wow, that's all? It's I'm trying to wrap my mind around that question, and because there's so much there, and I think I want to start by saying, one, I'm really just proud of our student athletes and proud of our coaches and our staff, and grateful for them, because I think they've all done a terrific job just managing and handling all of it. We're all really, really competitive. We're all, in our own ways, leaders, and we want answers, and we want clarity, and we want certainty. And this has been the greatest moment in time of uncertainty for our profession, for our industry, and trying to manage that, and trying to forge a pathway moving forward has been really, really difficult. And you most of the time you can't provide just a clear answer, right? It's 6 different answers or 6 different options, et cetera. And our staff and our student athletes have done a great job, just working through all of that. And the staff continues to work, I think, at a high level, and accomplish things at an elite level. And I think our student athletes are getting through school, and we just finished finals, and we're looking forward to getting grades back and see how they performed in the classroom. And all indication is that they've done it, and they've done it at a really high level, and have made the adjustments going from in-person class to online, which isn't easy to do. And so again, just a lot of stuff going on, and just proud of the way everybody's managed it. So I don't know that I answered your question, but I hope I did.
Mack, if the NBA, Major League Baseball, say the NHL, if these pro sports can come back, how much of that will be a help to you guys figuring out what the roadmap will be for when you come back?
Yeah, I think it's helpful. I think it's helpful, particularly when you talk about, just protocol, policy, procedure that will be in place to prevent, spread of infectious disease. And, we've had a lot of conversation here. Again, grateful for Kenny Boyd and our health and wellness team, but also to the Big 12 and all of the Big 12 medical directors. And, we're working with another group that specializes in infectious disease in sports. And so, all of those conversations, right, of everything that we need to have at our disposal before we bring student athletes onto campus. And then, what if one of your student athletes has COVID-19 and has the symptoms, right? Or what happens if a staff member gets COVID-19, and how do we handle that? Can we handle it? Are we prepared to handle it? All of those things. And so I think learning from those leagues, and then, combined with all of the due diligence that we're in the process of doing right now, hopefully will make for a safe return, and hopefully, we eliminate as much as the risk, mitigate as much as the risk as possible. And truthfully, I don't even know if it's a year from now, a year and a half from now, have we truly, and will we be at a point in place where we eliminate, 100% of the risk? And so until that time, I think we're all working really hard to mitigate as much of it as we can.
Mac, it seems that Bob Bowlesby, who about a week and a half ago had the line that got a little bit of traction about, the possibilities of the virus coming roaring back and the concerns there. But most recently here in the last few days, as he's made several media rounds, he's sounded a lot more positive. He talked about crowds might be a little bit softer at first because people may be a little bit wary, but it does seem like it's full go ahead. Are you sensing optimism from your conversations with the Big 12 commissioner and his people and also the fellow athletic directors? And what takeaways, if any, have you had from the most recent conversations?
Yeah, Bob he's Commissioner Bowlesby. He's provided great leadership. He's on a national platform and really highly regarded. And the A5 commissioners are talking regularly, which I think is really, really a positive for all of us. And yes, we're optimistic. We think that we're gonna play football. We're gonna start on time, week 0, right on I believe that's August 29th, and then certainly for us our opener in terms of September 5th. So I think we're cautiously again optimistic, and again I think as part of this plan to return, it's just making sure we do it in the best way possible. With our student athletes' health and safety first and foremost, our staff, health and safety first and foremost. So I think there's a lot of positivity. I would be remiss if I didn't say, hey, when we think about cautiously optimistic, heard Dr. Fauci talk today about maybe some worry, are we returning too soon? And, will that lead to any type of outbreak? So I think that's on all of our minds, and this balance of, trying to reopen the economy and get things started versus, how long do you wait? So still some things to play out. And, for us, when we think about the return of our student athletes, and let's, specifically focus on football, I think we've all coalesced around the idea of 6 weeks. Seems to be, time frame period that we need to make sure that our student athletes are in a good place by the start of the season, right? That they've had enough time to get acclimated, to get back in shape, all of those things. Injury prevention, right? Then do we really need to bring them back right now? I think, probably time is our greatest friend, our greatest asset. At some point in time, right, to make that 6 weeks, and as you back up, you're going to need to make that decision. But do we really need to make it today, right? Or can we let, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks go by and there be more developments, right? More testing available, maybe less invasive testing available. So those are all of the things that we're talking about. And again, I say this, that, to answer your question, we are optimistic, and think as long as we're smart right now in how we're moving forward, that there's a real chance of playing football on time.
You may have answered this before, because we've had this discussion now for almost 6 weeks, but what side are you on when it comes to, if in fact games start to happen? Are you on, you have to have students on campus before that happens?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I don't know that I'm in the camp where we have to have students on campus. What I do think is school has to be in session, and whatever form that is, right? And if that's all online, if it's a third in person, a third online, and the third hybrid, for example, right? But school absolutely has to be in session, and our student athletes have to be enrolled in school and taking classes those to me are the have-tos, and those things are the things that can't be compromised.
Mac Roach, Director of Athletics at Baylor, with us on SicEm365 Radio. Paul?
Mac, this may be just a presumptuous leap from me, but I would think that a lot of, maybe some of the issues with a massive return of students on campus would be worked out by there's just going to be a lot of people across the country who are going to select online only for the next year or so, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely, Paul, that's logical, and I think every institution is preparing for that. I know that Baylor is, right? And, just in preparation for those students, if you have in-person classes, right, you're going to have to practice, social distancing. And so, those are all of the conversations that are going on. If you have a class of 90, for example, right, class size of 90, is there a classroom big enough to where you can accommodate 6 feet apart and people wearing masks, and if there isn't, then how do you do that, right? Smaller classes are easier, so the larger classes, are they all online, etc. So just talking through and planning through all of that, we're in the process of doing that, and I'll say this, obviously, Dr. Livingstone leading that area, but also our provost, Nancy Brookhouse, doing a great job in terms of thinking through all of those things, and how do we bring back students, talking about student athletes, certainly, but how do we just bring back our general student body in a really, really safe manner.
Mac, you discussed how your spring sports coaches had done a really good job in managing with this waiver that will allow players to come back who missed the spring semester. And you told us about that, 2-3 weeks ago when we knew that was probably the direction that it was going to be going. But now we know for sure that the Major League Baseball draft is going to be a lot more limited than normal. And Steve Rodriguez has got all of his ducks in a row. But can you describe how difficult maybe that has or was for him and his staff to have to navigate through all the uncertainties and the questions about scholarship availability and what happens if this guy comes back and just all that goes into it?
Well, I think, baseball coaches in general are pros at having to navigate all of that because of the draft. And Steve, I think Steve does an exceptional job. And I think he does an exceptional job because he communicates up front. He's a man of his word, and, he's really clear in terms of expectations. You mentioned the draft and the limited draft. So that certainly, provides or allows for additional complication, and knowing that you're probably not going to have as many leave your program for the draft, and so having to kind of factor that in and have those conversations up front with your current student athletes, and Steve and his staff have done all of that, and have a plan, and I really believe that Coach Rodriguez, the staff, and our current student athletes are all on the same page, and there's a clear understanding of how we're going to move forward. And it seems maybe a little bit simple, but it is. It's complicated. It requires some really hard conversation and some thoughtful and caring conversation. And the way Steve and the staff handle it. Grateful for what they do and how they do it.
I know you need to go do other things. The Golden Bruisers Award Week, that would normally be an in-person end-of-the-year event that means quite a bit to those student athletes and those at Baylor University. How have you been able to do that? I know Holly Rowe is involved, and obviously her relationship with Baylor has been fantastic. How has that gone this week?
Well, it's been terrific, right? And it's the next best thing. What you miss, as you mentioned, is it's a year-end in-person kind of SB type like event, and really a celebration of our student athletes and our 4 pillars: the academic achievement, athletic success, character formation, spiritual growth, and we have awards that touch on all of that. But just thought it was really important, if we can't do it in person, and I do miss that. I miss seeing our student athletes all dressed up and and looking terrific. But if we couldn't, then we're going to do it via social media. And so we kicked it off yesterday. You mentioned Holly Rowe. She's been awesome, terrific, and she provided some introductory comments and just an overview of the entire week. And so every day now we'll announce the different award winners. And so, for instance, today we've already announced four different award winners. The female academic champion of the year, which is Isabella Lackner from cross country, a cumulative GPA of only a 4.0. Male academic champion of the year, Ryan Croson, men's track and field at 3.8. Our women's team academic champion of the year, soccer, with a 3.67 cum together. 46% of them achieved their personal bests. And then our men's team academic champion of the year, men's cross country, with a combined GPA of 3.32 and a combined 56% achieved personal best by each of our student athletes. And we've got 3 more to announce today, and then we have several on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And so really cool. We have a surprise guest every day of the week to help open up the day. And today's was King McClure, and King did a great job, and we're so proud of everything he's doing. And then we'll have a surprise guest on Wednesday and another one on Thursday. So hope our fans, Baylor family, are all watching and paying attention, because we truly have special student athletes.
Yeah, it's fantastic that you can still do that. We have an academic all-stars team that I've been able to do for years, and we're not going to be able to have the banquet. We're working at options, but to honor them, because you hate it that you can't have like something in person, but that's just what we're dealing with right now, and to be able to still do that is fantastic. It really is. Have you seen any of The Last Dance?
I have, and I saw the first. I saw the first 5, and then life has gotten in the way of 6 through 8. So 6, 7, and 8 I have not seen yet. So looking forward to catching up and seeing the last 3.
Yeah, we had Will Purdue on today. We've had a couple of others that covered those teams. I just thought with your basketball passion that would be something. And I know it's not like you don't have anything else to do, to just sit down and watch a couple of hours of a docuseries right now. Hey, thanks for your time, man. Hope you're doing okay. And for everyone else, I know my question was not loaded, but it was like 9 different prongs of an answer. You answered it perfectly, and we appreciate your time every week.
All right. Well, appreciate the 3 of you. You guys stay safe and healthy, and thank you always for the opportunity to visit with you all.
Mac Rhodes, Director of Athletics. When we started this show, in fact, I'll tell you something different. When we stopped doing shows, and then all of a sudden we were trying to figure out what was next, it was made very clear to us that segment was remaining on the schedule of Baylor's AD Mac Rhodes every Tuesday at 4:20. His belief that we would be doing something, and also his I guess he just, it's part of relationships.
One of the best phone calls I got the night of.
Yeah.
Really was.
I agree. Now, a couple of other from the Willis Law Firm chat room. Hob asked this question. Is there any hint about withheld money? We asked that question last week.
Yeah, that's
not even really on the radar right now, because it's really irrelevant. But yes, we asked that question last week, and he really didn't want to talk too much about it.
Well, what he said was that when the initial withholding of the money took place, that it was under a 4-year or however many months they, I guess, portrayed it as, but like a 4-year probationary period. And they're not even quite through that all the way just yet. I think they're 3 years into that, 2.5 years into that. So yeah, they haven't even reached that point. So I don't know that discussions even really begin until you hit your time frame as far as what they initially laid out. So they're in the midst of that right now. So there's really no reason for the Big 12 to go out of their way to want to go hand them the money earlier than they initially had estimated to. So that was basically where he stood, and as he said at the end, and I put this in the recap, and this is what he talked about a week or two ago, now is not the time to go into the Big 12 office and say, hey, where's our money? Can we get it now?
It wouldn't be a bad time to have the extra money, but really at the same time, it's just there's timing. It's like I get questions about whether it was with Mac or Matt Rule or now Aranda, whoever. Hey, there are certain ways you just kind of feel for the timing.
Mm-hmm. But I think he answered that very clearly, when we did talk to him about it. So, yeah, no, the money's not back. It's still in that probationary period, and until that ends, I guess in another year or so, then the answer is going to be pretty much the same that it was these last 5 years. No, not last 5, but these last couple of years as far as, that particular story goes. And I've already got a question for Mac I want to ask him next week because I have to think it's, we're seeing all these reports on California and scheduling changes and things like that. I just wonder at what point do you start to think about that Ole Miss game and what the conversations are like as far as, what you're doing to try to figure out how that's going to be played, if it's going to be played, all of that jazz. So I know that's all being sorted out right now, but we might be getting close enough soon to start to wonder about that Ole Miss game in particular.
Thanks to Carl on the Riverbend Liquor and Wine text line for his question about do students need to be on campus? TJ, hey, by the way, guys, so far so good with the Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat app.
Great.
This makes my 3 to 6 a lot better. Great segment with Mac. Thank you. Carl is the one that asked about the students in the campus. Thanks to Matt from earlier today. And 254-339-1122 Riverbend Liquor and Wine text line.
And Mac said that he is not in the camp that you have to have students back on campus, that they could be mostly online, but you do have to have school going on.
I just think that most of the people that are going to be on campus when that happens are going to be student athletes and people involved in that kind of realm.
If it was y'all in this current situation, would y'all go back to campus or would you go online?
I might go back to campus. I think I would. I think I would risk it. I don't know. Maybe I might get desperate. I mean, I would do whatever is the best thing.
You would get desperate?
To just be around my friends again. Okay. It just, because that's what college is about. Look, it's different it's weird enough being 40 and being in your house all the time. But when you're 20 your whole life, the social realm of your life is a whole lot easier to do. Dylan knows this. The three of us will never experience this again, but Dylan's in this right now, in that Dylan's 20 years old, right? 19, 20, and Dylan's 20. So for Dylan to set up things with his friends and hang out, there's no walls you have to go through. You just call up your friends and say, hey, we're doing this. Who's all coming? And then that happens. As you get older, people start getting married and having kids, and then they've got a job where they have to get up early. So going out to do things as a social group requires sometimes an act of Congress where you have to, pass bills through several houses of wives to hey, can 4 of us go to a baseball game on June 10th? We have to plan it out well in advance because kids and wives and jobs and all these things. So if you're 20 and you're just stuck to this, it's a completely upside down thing. At 40, you're missing out on your one time a month of maybe getting to see your friends for an hour.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
It's a little bit different.
From Chris, I was fixing to say app playing in the background perfectly 4 or 5 minutes now, and usually it would crap out after a minute. I have pressed my home button. So that's good as well. Thank you very much. And from Gadget Freak, only because the tradition continues like no other, like Augusta National and the Masters. Hey, Smokey, your snake got out again. And yet another snake video on my Twitter timeline.
Is it a good one?
It's a snake that came out of the vent of an apartment, the vent of where you'd have your dryer. So you tell me. So another night of no sleep.
That's not what I've even thought of.
Yeah, the scariest one to me is still, as far as the snakes go, and I think this might have been your brother Mike, and he was talking about living in Florida years and years ago, and he was sitting on the toilet doing his thing, and all of a sudden looked down, between your legs, and there's a snake in the toilet water underneath him, and that would be the most, oh my gosh, I would flip.
Be met with something.
I would flip so hard.
The snake would lose that battle, and then I don't know.
Get flushed real quick.
Yeah.
But then you've got a problem.
Yeah, you do.
They came up for there.
Yeah. It's when you get duct tape and you never let that lid come up again. No matter what's in it, snake or anything else that you left for the snake. 448. Hey, at 5 o'clock, we'll have David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com, John McClain, 5:30. So much more to get to, including 254-339-1122. If you'd like to jump on today, any questions you may have or your thoughts about, we had Will Perdue on in The Last Dance. Lee Trevino interview from yesterday that's gotten so much play. And then also when we come back, Sam Bradshaw and his series on Larry Fedora and his offense has been fantastic. He's going to join us Friday at 5. This is SicEm365 Radio.
The biggest, toughest, hardest-working heavy-duty trucks are on sale at Allen Samuels. Now, get employee pricing for all on new Ram heavy duties and no payments for 90 days. These unprecedented incentives won't last long. HDs for farm and ranch, for business and all commercial operations. Ram Heavy Duties, the Motor Trend Truck of the Year. Drive forward with Ram. From your friend in the car business, Allen Samuels.
Ask for details. All offers with approved credit.
Our communities are facing unprecedented times. At Boozer's Jewelers, we care about you and your family. If you're like me, your home has unwanted or unused jewelry lying around. They can have value, and that means we can turn that jewelry into instant cash. This is a great way to get the most value from your unwanted jewelry. At Boozer's Jewelers, we buy all kinds of unused jewelry. So give us a call and let us give you peace of mind and cash for your unwanted or unused jewelry.
Do you love Friday Night Lights? Would you like to have a bigger role than just watching the action to ensure the games are played fairly and safely? The Waco football chapter of the Texas Association of Sports Officials, or TASO, can make that happen. The 2020 Texas high school football season is right around the corner, and we need you to be a part of it. There's a shortage of officials across the state in all sports, and you can help. If you love the game and want to be a part of the solution, you can help our local student athletes continue to participate in games they love. Never officiated before? Don't worry. Waco Football Chapter can help you and prepare you to make the right call. And right now, Introduction to Football Officiating class is accepting registrations. Make your first grade call today by looking us up and contacting us on Facebook at Waco Football Chapter or at our website, wacofootballchapter.com. Find out more about the Waco Football Chapter of the Texas Association of Sports Officials, or TASO. Go to wacofootballchapter.com.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recalled drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com, principal office in Houston, Texas.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Salsa drap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue.
Next in line.
SicEm365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support our community through this crisis. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at IdealMRI.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Waco, Texas, a place with its own unique history and a future bright with promise. Full of remarkable growth and opportunity, and what makes it all work is its people, families, raising children, growing businesses. Wacoans are hardworking with a passion for what's next, and we're proud to be from here, helping Waco to grow and prosper. We are the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
This is SicEm365 Radio. Here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Sam Bradshaw, who is S11, right, Craig, on SicEm365.com. He does a great job. And he's broken down the Larry Fedora offense. New offense part 4 came out on May the 11th, which was yesterday, a 4-part series. He's going to join us Friday to kind of sit there and, break all what he knows, his knowledge, and he'll join us on Friday at 5. All right?
Sounds good.
And also on the Riverbend Liquor and Wine text line, new app, thumbs up, peace
Very
in a
good.
positive way. But then TJ just said, just sharing it, as soon as I sent that text to kick me off the app, I think as long as I don't text, I'll be all right, which is one of the concerns we have. We don't want that to be the issue.
Yeah, we're working on a lot of things. I don't know if it kicks, like we haven't figured out if it's the background or if it's something to do with the play and pause button. So Colt and I have worked on several different things. So I'm a good beta test for this app because nothing seems to work for me but a couple things. But we'll get it working and it's fine. It just, these things take time to test and work out. But for the most part, it's pretty good.
It's almost like maybe we should have waited till it was completely done before talking about it so much.
Yeah, I thought about that, but then we wouldn't know. Like,
right, we
if
wouldn't
it
know
was
the
just
problems. 7
of us testing this thing out, then if none of the 7 of us have the problems, and then 7 people we don't talk to do, I mean, so this is what you call beta testing.
Right.
So this is what we're doing, and we're kind of doing it on the fly, but everything is working out for the most part. There's just some small little glitches, and the more information we have about those, the more we can send back to the developers and get them to fix them.
Yeah, there should be some people that.
You see, I completely disagree with you on this because this is a trial and error thing that
when you launch it, it should be ready.
Yeah, but see, you don't know. There's millions and millions. I would like you to just sit in a room with a person who's
not what I
developing
do.
an app.
I'll do the guess.
And look at
You do the app.
the millions and millions of lines of code of where a decimal point could be at a place that changes the whole thing.
By the way, the story that has really riveted the country, Ahmaud Arbery, the young man that was shot while jogging, and of course the Department of Justice has gotten involved, and there's so much. There was a lot of concerns about what would have happened had there been no video. Anquan Bolden, co-founder of the Players Coalition, says it's significant that white athletes such as Tom Brady, Josh McCown, Julian Edelman, and others played a role in also making sure they publicly supported the black community on matters of social injustice, which has not always been the case. Some players, we've even heard about Michael Jordan or whatever that didn't take a stance on that governor's race or whatever it was, or the race in North Carolina. This thing has just exploded. It's one of the latest stories about, what the heck's going on here. But they made the arrest. It was later than it should have been. And I don't know the timeline of making sure they got everything correct. But Tom Brady, now part of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that's kind of something that otherwise he may not have gotten involved with. In fact, he used to take some heat because he had a Trump hat, or he went to a Trump rally, or he's played golf with Trump.
Yeah, I think most of the people who've seen the video or just know the circumstances altogether are kind of shocked at how long it took for this to happen. I'm glad it finally has, but and I'm glad that there's athletes that are standing up and saying something about it so that people know that this isn't. I mean, this is a racially motivated thing. It appears like from the people who did it, but it needs to be one of those things where we see somebody get killed unjustly, and we all stand up and say this is not right.
Yeah, I think it's sad that we have to applaud people for standing up and saying the obvious, but that's the type of society that we live in, where we're pretty backwards on things like that. It should be, not as much of a surprise, or shouldn't be as something that we have to feel like we have to hey, great job on doing that. It should just happen. But I get why that is. It was horrific when I saw it, and obviously there's a lot of things to have to be figured out across the board as far as the next steps and what's going to take place with trials and things like that. But yeah, what I saw was absolutely horrific, and it's good to have people who have a name and have value in social circles and have influence amongst their fans to comment on something like that and bring more light to it and hopefully bring some more justice.
Hey, the Academic All-Stars team, the 10th annual team, we announced them all last week, or what was May 1st. We'll have that again here in this next hour. This Sunday in the Waco Trib, there'll be a full-page, full-color ad honoring them. The title sponsor, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952, Westdale Asset Management, also the family of Hal Whitaker, Southwest Sports Medicine, Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Ray Broker Air Conditioning and Heating, the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, Rudy's, and the Waco Foundation, the 10th annual team. We would have normally honored them tomorrow night, But obviously, in this day and age, that's not possible. We'll highlight them on Sunday, and I've also connected with some of the local newspapers that cover the student athlete from around Greater Central Texas. This is SicEm365 Radio. Live crawfish is back. The 30-pound bags of live crawfish, as delicious as you could imagine, back at Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. $3 a pound, 30-pound live crawfish bags are available. You order by Thursday at noon. You can pick up your customized order anytime on Friday afternoon until 6 p.m. And the drive-thru now open at Waco Custom Marketplace Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can still order what you want from their butcher shop, including beef and poultry, seafood, and also pork. And, of course, their bakery. You can order from their bakery. You can go online, WacoCustomMarketplace.com, or go by the drive-thru. Waco Custom Marketplace, live crawfish available Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We are open to support our community through this crisis. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recall drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com. Principal office located in Houston, Texas.
This is SicEm365 Radio.
Prescott going to keep it all. What a zone read. Look at Dak Prescott with room to roll. Prescott still going down to the 20.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
David Hellman on Tuesdays at 5, John McClain 5:30 gives us a bunch of NFL and much more. Cowboys, Texans, NFL. Craig, before we get David Hellman, we're working on him, had a Chris Miller note, former Baylor safety.
Yeah, and I have to thank one of our listeners for passing this along, Baylor Nick. This is from Brady Henderson, who covers the Seahawks. Of the Seahawks' 17 undrafted rookies, Washington State quarterback Anthony Gordon received the highest signing bonus. He got $12,500. And the next four amongst the Seahawks undrafted rookies, offensive tackle Tommy Champion received $11,500, but former Baylor safety Chris Miller, $10,000 signing bonus, signing with the Seahawks, which was the third highest amongst their undrafted free agents. So, that doesn't mean he's going to make the team, doesn't mean he'll have a long NFL career, but it does mean they do have some hope and optimism for what Chris Miller can do. So I think that's a great sign. And hey, he's got $10,000, so I'm sure it's a beautiful thing for him.
To put that in perspective, and I don't have the figure and I could Google it, but then that would be cheating, is that when the Cowboys and nobody else, back when Tony Romo was coming out of Eastern Illinois, and everybody passed on him, I believe the Cowboys, and Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought they may have offered him like $15,000 or $20,000, as an undrafted free agent, and they had to outbid a couple of teams.
Yeah, like the Broncos.
But that might have been it at the time, and it might have been 50,000. I don't know, but it's interesting how they do get something, and more of those guys that are more important than others. But they fill the roster. We're now joined by David Helm. David, do you remember? I know that was before you started covering the Cowboys, but was Romo's undrafted like 15,000 or something like that?
Yeah, I wish I had that for you. It was a little bit before my time. I know, every year there's always a guy that, commands a pretty surprising price. And honestly, this year the Cowboys have a guy by the name of Rondell Carter out of James Madison University, same college that their 7th-round quarterback went to. They gave him $120,000, which is a significant more than most 7th-round draft picks get built into their contract. So, I'm sure it's a bummer when these guys don't get drafted, but if the team likes you enough, they can definitely make it worth your while.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up here. It says that Sean Payton and Shanahan, some others, that
Romo got $10,000.
15 or $10 or $15,000, or maybe 20. Yeah, that was what it was. And the others are Broncos and some other teams. All right, so I saw this note from Babe Laufenberg. He said, here's a list of quarterbacks in the Super Bowl era who have 40 wins and at least 15,000 passing yards in their first 4 years. And the names on the list are Dan Marino and Dak Prescott.
Yeah,
That's
sounds
it.
about right. I think, it's always an interesting conversation with Dak because the list of guys that hit the ground running as the starter in their rookie year is not very long. And then the list of guys that hit the ground running as a rookie and go on to these long distinguished careers is even shorter. It's a testament to how good Dak has been and how little time it took him to get there.
I noticed a tweet from you earlier today that a lot of people co-signed on, and you have a Dak deadline. Explain that to us. It's
just an idea. I haven't gotten as much traction on it as I would prefer, but as somebody whose job is talking about the Cowboys, I'm exhausted by this conversation. There's not that much else left to say. Some people think Dak is worth the money and needs to be signed. Some people think he's not. There's a lot of people in between. But either way, every time we talk about it, it just turns into this contentious debate and everybody gets angry and people start calling each other names. So my idea was, if nothing has happened in the next 10 days, we're still 2 more months away from the deadline. And history indicates that, if Dak doesn't have a deal by now, he might not get one until the deadline. So if nothing has happened in the next 10 days or so, we just shut up. We just don't talk about it anymore until the deadline. And then, he'll either get a deal or he won't get a deal and we can react accordingly. But I'm just tired of getting into arguments with people about the same thing over and over again.
David, I guess nothing is shocking on the internet, but is this surprising to you at all? Because I'm Dak fed up as well at this point, but is this surprising to you at all, the amount of people that actually are making an argument for why it doesn't make sense for him to be the quarterback moving forward?
No, I'm not surprised because, I covered the end of Tony Romo's career.
That's true.
I was coming up in the business in the middle of his career. So, it's ironic that, Dak is getting the same treatment as the guy before him. And, Romo, there were plenty of flaws with Romo's game and plenty of reasons to criticize him, but he probably didn't deserve as much grief as he got. But this is the biggest fan base in football, and it's full of passionate people, and you're going to be under the microscope, whether you like it or not. It goes to territory. So it's kind of ironic that Dak is living out what his predecessor had to deal with before him, but I wouldn't call it surprising.
So we got the schedule released last week. Do you have the Cowboys going 16-0?
Yeah, why the hell not? That's more fun. Nobody wants a fence rider. I think, I looked at it and it's so silly to try to pick out specific wins and losses because 2 or 3 teams that we think are going to be good on that schedule are going to be bad. And 2 or 3 teams that we think are going to be bad are going to be good. That's the way it goes every single year. But looking at it, I do, I think there's potential for this team. I think they could get to as many as 12 or so wins. And depending on how the breaks go, I think they could have the same type of disappointing season as last year. But I think, just looking at it, I would guess that it's very realistic to think that they could win 10 or so games and get back to the playoffs.
It's so hard because there'll be two teams that were playoff teams last year that don't win 5 games. And there'll be a team that was 5-11 last year that might win 11 games. It's hard. Back in the day when you had the 49ers, Cowboys, Packers, superpowers, you could take 2 wins. There are going to be 2 losses that make no sense for most everybody. And it's just hard to do. All right, now I saw your article about Tyrone Crawford. They have Randy Gregory, who knows if he'll be back. They brought in Aldon Smith. They drafted the kid from Utah. What's his status? Where's he at physically?
I talked to him last week when the schedule came out. He says he's feeling good. I appreciated his honesty. He said he's surprised at how good he feels. I mean, he did have surgery on both hips, kind of an important joint to a football player, to anybody really. So, I mean, he said he's feeling really good, and it sounds like, he would be ready to hit the field if the Cowboys were getting on a field. I think that's the tricky thing is when are these guys going to be able to actually get their feet underneath them. But it's really encouraging to think, Tyrone Crawford's not an all-pro. He's not going to get you 12 sacks, but he's been steady at that position. Since they moved him out there, he's pretty reliable for 5 or 6 sacks a season, which, again, I'm not trying to convince anybody that's great, but when you can't count on Randy Gregory or Aldon Smith, technically they're not even on the roster right now. It's encouraging to think that he could at least be your fallback option if those 2 guys aren't available.
I've seen a lot of this today. Joe Judge said that the Giants offense would be more or less very similar to the Cowboys' old offense under Jason Garrett. I know a lot of people are saying, oh my gosh, great, because of the things that the Jason Garrett offense was. But am I crazy to think that based on the fact that they're a young offense without a lot of big playmaking potential on the outside right now, that might not be a bad thing for the Giants?
Yeah, well, the other thing, too, I mean, it's so easy to throw that label out there, but then you got to think about, Scott Linehan was the OC for most of the final 5 years of Garrett's tenure. Then Kellen Moore twists it. Jason Garrett hasn't called plays for the Cowboys since either the 2012 or the 2013 season. So, I mean, that's almost a decade ago at this point. And then you go even further back when he first got to Dallas. He had, a young Romo and a young Witten and Terrell Owens. Like, they were a top 5, 6 offense in the league, during the 3 years that he was the offensive coordinator. That's what helped him get the interim head coach job. So, I don't know if the Giants are going to be any good on offense. I don't think we know how good their quarterback is. And outside of Saquon Barkley, their skill players aren't that impressive. But I don't just chalk it up and say they're going to suck because Jason Garrett's their OC, because Jason Garrett's coached some very good offenses in his career.
You have Scott Linehan's presence. You have the Jason Garrett influence, and Kellen Moore, of course, was able to soak a lot of that in. And then you have Mike McCarthy. How does he mesh what he likes to do with a guy that I think is a West Coast offense to what the Cowboys are used to doing?
I think now that we've gotten through the draft and, we've seen how they acquire talent, that is the second most interesting storyline for this team, because I think McCarthy, one of the several reasons that he got the job is that he said the right things about Kellen Moore. Obviously, the Jones family's enamored with Kellen. They had the best offense statistically in the NFL last year. He's got a great relationship with Dak. I think Mike McCarthy said the right things about that. But, yeah, it is interesting. I mean, Kellen Moore came up under Scott Linehan. He's got some different philosophies. And, yeah, you're right. McCarthy's a longtime West Coast guy. And so, you take the timing elements of that offense, and it's not as vertical in offense as other ones. I'm fascinated because McCarthy started coaching. McCarthy might have started coaching before Kellen Moore was born, or at the very least, it was when Kellen Moore was a little kid. So it'll be interesting to see how much of a back seat, 25, 30-year veteran in coaching takes to a guy that's only in his second year as the OC. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I think the dynamic there of, who gives and who takes is going to be a fascinating subplot when they do actually get on the field.
Do you want McCarthy not to have? I mean, That's just. I don't know if Kellen Moore was forced down his throat. It doesn't appear to be that way. We don't know, right, Paul and David?
Yeah.
But Craig, I want McCarthy to be in charge of his offense.
No, I mean, we don't have any evidence that, if anything, I think Mike McCarthy's just a smart guy and realized my best bet toward getting this job is going to be to embrace the hotshot OC that's already in place. I don't think it was forced down his throat. I go back and forth. I mean, I think McCarthy has coached some very successful offenses. He's got a track record of working well with quarterbacks. I certainly want him to have some. At the same time, I think there's some value to your head coach taking a step back and letting the offensive coordinator do his thing. And you've got 19,000 other things you need to worry about as a head coach. I like the idea of, if my OC knows what he's doing, which it seems like Kellen Moore does, that you would give him some autonomy. The Cowboys love to use the phrase collective process, and sometimes I think it's BS, but in this case, I would hope that that's the case where, it's Kellen Moore's show, but Mike McCarthy absolutely has every right to step in and make recommendations and suggest plays and that type of stuff. Hopefully that's not too big of an ask, that it can be a fairly collaborative situation.
Now, if you hadn't been home for the last couple of months like we all have, I would think there'd be more to my theory on this, but Doug Nussmeier is the Cowboys quarterbacks coach. Garrett Nussmeier is his son, who's the highest recruited quarterback in the country, who's committed to LSU. You didn't have anything to do with that, did you, David?
I didn't have anything to do with it, but I mean, this is just me. This is me spitball. Actually, Nuss is a very nice guy. He's been on the Cowboys staff for a couple years now. 1 year at training camp, he saw me walking around with an LSU hat and kind of was talking to me. His family's from the area. His son loves LSU, and I try not to follow recruiting too closely, so I didn't know too much about Garrett. And then, 6 months down the line, I'm like, oh wow, Nuss's kid is like really, really good. So I made it a point to kind of talk up LSU every time I saw him at work from that point forward.
Did you just say things like in the cafeteria, like, oh man, this jambalaya looks good, but not as good as the kind you can get just down the street from campus?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I made sure to point out, LSU hired Scott Linehan, who worked with Nuss at Idaho. They know each other very well. So I made sure to point that out, that he'd have a friendly face in the LSU facility if that's what he decided to do. Just, little nudges in the right direction.
Anything else, guys? All right. David, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. David Hellman on Tuesdays at 5, DallasCowboys.com. Come back in a couple of the notes. Want to mention, I mentioned the Academic All-Stars. I want to mention the young men and women who are part of that team again, thanks to Texas Farm Bureau Insurance and so much more. Bob Locke at Bob Locke Marketing is the one working on the full-page, full-color ad that will come out on Sunday. It will have much more, plus John McClain at 5:30. This is SicEm 365 Radio.
Buick Encores are the perfect crossover SUV with a quiet ride, a roomy interior, and they are packed with safety features and the latest technology. And right now, all 2020 Buick Encores are in stock, 0% for 84 months for qualified buyers, plus $1,250 in savings, or you can save $6,000 and drive off in a Buick Encore for only $19,900. Also, Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac has 0% for 84 months on the 2020 GMC line of Sierras, Yukons, Acadias, Terrains, Canyons, and the lineup of Buick SUVs, also all 0% for 84 months for qualified buyers. Free oil changes are one of the things that you can get with a new purchase of a car at Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, as well as in-town priority warranty service. All of that comes when you shop with Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. And as I mentioned, they've got various lines on sale right now with great deals. But it's not just that. It's not just the cars that they offer and the great deals. It's the way they take care of the people here locally, as they've been doing now for well over 20 years. Richard Carr Motors, they are the people you can count on. A local family dealer run by Baylor Bear alumni, they want the chance to earn your business. So stop by the daily disinfected showroom and see their safety-focused staff. Or if you're a little nervous about that, still not quite ready to go out to the dealership, even better, they will bring the car to your home for a test drive. Your comfort and safety is Richard Carr's first priority. So find them at richardcarr.com or at Highway 6, the Imperial exit.
Go
where you want to go in a new Jeep from Allen Samuels. Get employee pricing plus for all on new 2020 Gladiators and Wranglers. Put yourself in a new 2020 Grand Cherokee, Compass, Cherokee, or Renegade with 0% for 72 and no payments for up to 120 days. Let's go. Allen Samuels is ready to do business in person or online. Drive forward in a Jeep from Allen Samuels.
Ask for details. All offers with approved credit.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco and Balcones whiskey, including single malt, hot still, baby blue, French oak, rye, and brimstone. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries, celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas. Our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Trust the doctors that Baylor trusts. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction with a team of 24 experienced agents who are excited about serving you. Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Do you love Friday Night Lights? Would you like to have a bigger role than just watching the action to ensure the games are played fairly and safely? The Waco football chapter of the Texas Association of Sports Officials, or TASO, can make that happen. The 2020 Texas high school football season is right around the corner, and we need you to be a part of it. There's a shortage of officials across the state in all sports, and you can help. If you love the game and want to be a part of the solution, you can help our local student athletes continue to participate in games they love. Never officiated before? Don't worry. Waco Football Chapter can help you and prepare you to make the right call. And right now, Introduction to Football Officiating class is accepting registrations. Make your first grade call today by looking us up and contacting us on Facebook at Waco Football Chapter or at our website, wacofootballchapter.com. Find out more about the Waco Football Chapter of the Texas Association of Sports Officials, or TASO. Go to wacofootballchapter.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hi, this is Mart High School football coach Kevin Hoffman, and I'm a proud listener and supporter of the all-new SicEm365 radio show with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Waco, Texas, our city of remarkable growth and opportunity with an even brighter future ahead. What makes it all work is our people living, working, and growing together. And we're proud to be from here, helping and serving the community we call home. We are the First National Bank of Central Texas, taking great pride in being locally owned and operated. Come see us at any of our 5 convenient locations. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
This is SicEm365 Radio. The SicEm365 radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. Here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, so the Academic All-Stars program, I hate that we're not going to be able to have the banquet. You know, some banquets, they drag on, but we would go, and Craig, you've been to a ton of them, and so have Paul, you have been, and Dylan actually was somebody we honored Am I right?
Yeah.
So this year's team brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, thanks to Carl Ellis and Mike Garrick. Protecting Texans since 1952. We announced the team on Friday. This coming Sunday, there'll be a full-page, full-color ad in the newspaper. 9 valedictorians, 3 salutatorians, and the overall class average, I believe, is actually going up because I'm compiling the latest final, like what they have as a grade point average. Taylor Bossy of Chilton, Braden Brashear at Yo High School, Austin Birch from Vanguard College Prep, Harlan Cook from Lampasas, Aubrey Fawcett from Academy, Jaden Gillum from Hubbard, Davis Golden, China Spring, Cherith Hicks, Shoemaker. She's going to the U.S. Military Academy, as is Hallie King from West, Rachel Callis of Abbott, Kyle Kowalski from Midway, Thorndale's Landry Lesper, Crawford's Anna Maddox, Jeffrey Nickerson from La Vega, Riley Perry from Clifton, Andrew Posey from Temple High School, Patrick Quinn from Ellison, Laurel Stiegel from Heiko, Sophia Swanky from Waco High, and Bryce Tonkin from Riker Catholic School. And you got going to SMU, going to Rice, going to Baylor, there's always a chunk to A&M. I think UT, 2 of them are in the Red McCombs Business School at UT, among some others of schools like Tarleton State and others that are going to be someone and players or athletes that we watch. Henderson State, there's one of the student athletes going there as well. So,
good mix of
Stephen Mackey was supposed to be our guest speaker too.
Yeah, so no banquet this year. Obviously, you mentioned a few times now that we will have the ad in the Trib, and I can't help but think that it's great that this event is still going on, and it's fitting that we are a part of the group that is now continuing on to acknowledge and congratulate, and in some cases reward these student athletes with the substantial amount of money that they will get as a check as far as being named a recipient, that I'm sure will go a long way in helping a lot of these young men and women just buying books and whatever else that they need to do, the prices that come with college. And, I mean, I'll say it now because we're no longer there, so it doesn't matter, and even if we were, I wouldn't care the way I felt at the end. But it was really disappointing to me to see the complete lack of support that was shown over the last couple of years of the banquet in particular. We had one salesperson that actually did continue to come, and she was there the last couple of years, but we went from the first year that I arrived in Waco, we had the lady who worked up front was there, basically every salesperson was there, all of the on-air hosts were there, no matter if you were a producer or if you were just a host, a co-host, what have you. And, I definitely noticed a little bit of a downgrade in, that support a couple years ago, and last year it was very evident because it was you, me, and Paul. It was that same salesperson, and I'm pretty sure that was it by last year. We had absolutely no support whatsoever from the owner. He did not care, didn't care about the kids, didn't care about what they were getting rewarded, didn't care about the banquet, didn't care about any of it because they wasn't putting money in his pocket. That's just bottom line. And, I guess the others just didn't eventually care all that much either to take a couple hours out one time a year to or to show support for these young men and women that we, as we get older, we complain about that generation and all these kids these days. Well, here are 20 kids from our very own backyard. All these places that you want to go and talk to this local business or talk to that local business, and you talk support, but then you don't show it. And so this is showing support, and that was just really something that stood out to me. I don't know why I'm ranting, or I'm not ranting, really. I can rant much better than this, but I don't know why I'm going off of that now. I think I'm very proud that you're still going through with it, because it would have been the easy thing to do this year to just say, you know what, let's call this whole thing off and just not worry about it. But even with no banquet, you're still going through with it, and I think it's great that we're keeping it going. And I think now we're actually at a place where if we can one day return to have a banquet, it won't just be Paul and I and one salesperson representing the entire station of 20-plus people. It will be the three of us and, people from SicEm365.com who are showing their support as well. And even though we live kind of all around, even though we're in Waco, but Brian and Ashley and all of them live out of town. I know even if they couldn't be here for an event like that the least they would do would show their support in any way that they could. So it's good to be at a place where, that support is shown, and also where we aren't doing it for a newspaper headline or because of, kind words people might say on social media. You're doing it in particular because you've done it for 20 years and you want to acknowledge the great student athletes out there and not just the athletes.
Yeah, thank you. And it is interesting because the place we were at actually had about $6,000, $7,000 a month that was on the air because of Academic All-Stars. And so now ask him about where that is.
You open the door. See, that's the thing. It opens the door.
All right, you do an X amount of money a month. How about if you attach yourself to this event and now you're doing 2 and 3 times that? And that was always overlooked, but that's okay. We're having the time of our life.
And I want to be very
doing
clear.
what we do at SicEm365 Radio.
Absolutely. You're dead on with that. And this, I want to be very clear. Anything that I just said is not sour grapes. Not sour at all. It's just the bottom line of how it really was, and that was disappointing to me last year. that's the first time I've ever said anything to you guys about it, but I just noticed the support get lower and lower as the years went on, not from the students or their families. All of that remained great. It was just, the people that you hope would show their support, and that's fine. Again, no sour grapes, but just I think we're in a great spot, like you said, and this will be the perfect place for this banquet, honoring these student athletes moving forward.
All right, when we come back, thank you, Craig. John McClain, Hall of Fame writer, Houston Chronicle, and I always want to make sure that Dylan Chapman, who's here running the mothership with us, was an academic all-star.
He was an academic all-star.
He was. He was a tough choice.
That was the year. That might have been the first year when the management threw all the nominations back in the mail, and we just had to pick somebody.
Yeah, Dylan's here. We know him.
Yeah, no, he was a no-brainer.
This is SicEm365 Radio. At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas. Our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. In today's world, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. We even offer financing. Everything's included in the price, and more importantly, you'll not get a bill in the mail later on. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule an appointment safely from home, online in minutes at idealmri.com, or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI. And please remember to follow CDC guidelines and practice social distancing. Stay home, except for the essentials, and be safe, and together we'll get through this at idealmri.com.
Our communities are facing unprecedented times. At Boozer's Jewelers, we care about you and your family. If you're like me, your home has unwanted or unused jewelry lying around. They can have value, and that means we can turn that jewelry into instant cash. This is a great way to get the most value from your unwanted jewelry. At Boozer's Jewelers, we buy all kinds of unused jewelry. So give us a call and let us give you peace of mind and cash for your unwanted or unused jewelry.
Live crawfish is back. The 30-pound bags of live crawfish, as delicious as you can imagine, back at Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. $3 a pound, 30-pound live crawfish bags are available. You order by Thursday at noon. You can pick up your customized order anytime on Friday afternoon until 6 p.m. And the drive-thru now open at Waco Custom Marketplace Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can still order what you want from their butcher shop, including beef and poultry, seafood, and also pork. And, of course, their bakery. You can order from their bakery. You can go online, WacoCustomMarketplace.com, or go by the drive-thru. Waco Custom Marketplace, live crawfish available Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6.
This is SicEm365 Radio. The SicEm365 Radio call-in line segment is sponsored by Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue, where curbside pickup and drive-through are now available. Next in line.
This is May the 12th. It's Tuesday. We close out the last half hour of this show in this week 6 of SicEm365 Radio. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke, Dylan Chapman. I'm David Smoke, and thank you for listening to our show today. John McClain, Hall of Fame writer, joins us now on SicEm365 Radio. We had Santana Dotson on earlier, John. He was, of course, an All-American at Baylor, played 10 years or so in the NFL, was a Super Bowl player with the great Packers defensive line. Your recollections of Santana Dotson?
Played at Houston Yates High School here. When they recruited him, he was one of the top prospects in the state. Of course, he lived up to that recruitment and his billing. I saw Santana here last year, and I told him that he should come back here and get into talk radio because he was always a great talker. And he lives in Green Bay, and he's on the radio up there. And he says he likes it. And I told him, I said, well, if you're ever going to move on permanently, and he's here a lot, I said, I'll guarantee you got a chance. You would make a great talk show host. Good guy, good talker, good player, had a great NFL career.
John, NFL, they kicked some money up into the fund or the what happened today. Kind of explain it for our listeners. For the players and the owners agreed to kick some money ahead in case there's a shortened season or whatever.
Yeah, they're trying to make plans for that. The way the schedule, when it came out on Thursday, the way it's set up, and I'll be in shock if they can actually start the NFL season on time. I know they have a plan to start it in October, finish it the last Sunday in February. They want to play 16 games. They would rather have the season pushed back with fans than to start the season on September 10th and not have fans, because if you don't have fans, that costs the owners money. Therefore, the designated gross revenue is down. Therefore, the salary cap goes down. If you're a quarterback like Dak Prescott and you think you're going to clean up next off season, I think you're crazy, because I don't see any way they're going to have this revenue they always have. And so they have a plan in case they have to have games canceled. And they have plans for 14. They don't have, well, they do have a plan for 12. And they played the 1982 season with 9 games, and they because of a player strike, and they also added teams in the playoffs. And so they're trying to cover every contingency. They tried to put on a happy face last week when the schedule came out, but they do have plans for everything. And you just saw today, they announced in California 3 more months of the restrictions, which, and I think, number one, if you're in a pro team in California, you may have to go to another state to work out and possibly even play, especially baseball and basketball. And I suggested today, I said they should let the Dodgers come and share Minute Maid Park in Houston with the Astros. Reach out to them and make that offer. I'm pretty sure the Dodgers would rather go anywhere than have to come to Houston and share a stadium with the Astros.
Man, that would be funny. That would be funny if they had to do that. Hey, John, there's been a lot of changes for the Texans this offseason, obviously, and the trade involving DeAndre Hopkins. For you, what are your expectations for David Johnson? There's some that seem to believe that his better years are behind him, but a guy who's come back from injury. Obviously, the Texans love to run the football. Just what are your exact expectations for what David Johnson will provide this team?
Johnson missed 3 games last season. He didn't fit into Cliff Kingsbury's system. He missed 3 games and he got benched, so he didn't get used up. The season before, he played every game, scored 10 touchdowns, rushed for 945 yards, and David Johnson is a touchdown machine. In his last 4 seasons in which he's been healthy, he's averaged 12 touchdowns. I think he'll come in here like Carlos Hyde did if he stays healthy. Like Carlos Hyde, he'll rush for more than 1,000 yards. As a receiver, no running back as good as he is. Going back to if you go back to 2000, every running back with a minimum of 65 receptions, and that's not a lot. His average per catch at 10.7 yards is better than all of them. And they like to throw the ball to back. Carlos Hyde couldn't catch a cold. He had only like 12 reception all year. I think that David Johnson and Duke Johnson, who comes off the bench, will combine for more catches than any running back duo in the league. So I expect him rotating with Johnson like Carlos Hyde. We'll have somewhere a little over 1,000 yards, which would be the second best season of his career. One year he had 1,200 something. He also had 18 touchdowns. That was in 2016.
John, Jared Stidham is the heir apparent to Tom Brady. How do you think that he will adjust to that job if it is, in fact, him who wins it over Brian Hoyer?
Well, he's going to win it over Brian Hoyer. Something's wrong. Brian Hoyer is a perennial backup. Now, maybe Stidham starts off, he struggles. They let him watch a few games and put Hoyer in, but Stidham is their quarterback. A lot of people think they should sign Cam Newton. I don't think that's the plan. They are being killed by cap problems, big-time cap problems. They've lost 7 key players from last season, and a bunch of them off of one of the NFL's best defenses. So Jared Stidham, unlike Tom Brady, is not stepping onto a really talented roster with talent on offense. They just don't have it. And Stidham threw five passes last year. Brady threw 4 as a rookie. Bill Belichick liked Brady, played him. The rest is history. I'm not saying Stidham is going to be Brady, but if Belichick thinks enough of him to put him out there, that's pretty good. The pressure of replacing Brady, and the fans and media will be very understanding starting off, but he's going to hear that comparison. He better have really thick skin. But he's the guy, and if Bill Belichick likes him, I like him.
We've now had a few days to chew on the schedule, and I know that you have a piece up right now on Texas Sports Nation, HoustonChronicle.com. You've got the Texans winning 10 games next year and being the AFC South champions at going 10-6. But just your, I guess, kind of initial impressions when you saw the schedule, John, and what jumped out to you.
Well, I tell you what, Craig. First thing I saw was one primetime game. I didn't understand that. That was the first one at Kansas City. And if they think enough of the Texans to put them in the first game of the year against Kansas City, why are they not any more primetime games? They're 6-1 in their last 7 primetime games. Last year they were 2-1. They lost to the Saints by 2 on a 58-yard field goal at the time expired. They won by 3 over the Colts and won by 6 over the Patriots. In those 3 games last year, in primetime, Deshaun Watson had 8 touchdown passes, touchdown rushing, 1 touchdown receiving. And I don't care if DeAndre Hopkins is gone. With Watson, they are exciting. I would think people would want to see him, but the network obviously thinks the team's going to take a big drop. Buffalo, which the Texans beat Buffalo in the playoffs, has 4 primetime games. So that the Texans will say, well, they got more weekends that are going to be flexed. So if they're good and they play an opponent that's good, they can be flexed tonight, and that's fine. But this shows how little respect that Bill O'Brien, Deshaun Watson, and the rest of the Texans team that's won the division for the last 5 years and is coming off second round of the playoff loss in which they choked a 24-point lead, even that was exciting. So, but they don't think enough of them to give them more than 1 done after the first game.
John, do you feel like the NFL, with the power that it has, baseball's kind of thrown out of date, and then we saw what maybe California's going to be doing the next 2 or 3 months. We don't know, but that looks like it's going to be pushed back. But with all the teams that are in California, if the NFL wanted to move on, would they then relocate those teams for this year?
Yes. And one of the places they should relocate is San Antonio.
Yeah.
I keep seeing this speculation by the national media, and I think they don't know San Antonio's there and has the Alamo Dome. San Antonio would love, I'll guarantee you, San Antonio would love to host one of those teams. And I think that would be terrific. But, you know, you can't, I don't think you can. Like for the longest time, Roger Goodell said, if one team can't report to its facility, no team reports to its facility. Last week, there was a memo that looked like that if states like Texas let them, then great for them. And then teams like California couldn't. Too bad. They would have to, in Seattle, they would have to come up with an alternative. And the only alternative is to get off the West Coast and go somewhere else. And I'm sure there's a lot of places that would like to have them for practice. And there's St. Louis. Wouldn't St. Louis be a great place to go? They've got a great practice facility left up there. They got a stadium. They could do it as well. And it would make, and whatever you do as the city in these unprecedented times might help you down the line. So I know that's not the best situation, but everybody is going to have to be understanding of the times we live in and hope and pray. It's the only time we have to go through it. And the NFL, of course, is lucky because of timing. You know, they could push back the season to October and finish at the end of February or March, and it would be no big deal.
Could you – I mean, I could just see a scenario where you put the Chargers in San Antonio. I mean, they'll get 50 times as many fans as they get normally. Maybe you get the Rams back in St. Louis and say, all right, you've got a fan base there. Then, you know, you do something with the Niners and Seahawks that you know, they'll find them someplace. Which
could somebody besides Oakland play in Vegas?
They could do that if they wanted to double up. They're going to have to double up somewhere. Mm-hmm. And if Las Vegas is open, that would be a great possibility. Paul, there's one thing I can guarantee you that will not happen, and that was not the Rams going back to St. Louis. There is no way the city of St. Louis would let Stan Kroenke move his franchise back for half season or a quarter of a season or a full season. If they did, he wouldn't able to come across the state line.
Hey guys, forget about that old mess. I just want to play football games.
Hey, John, were you ever in a post game or a pre-game or playoff? Did you ever have a chance to be around Michael Jordan?
No, I've never. I've watched his whole career. Of course, I've watched The Last Dance, and I think it's extraordinary. People are trying to say it's a puff piece for Jordan. No, it's not. It makes him look terrible in a lot of instances. Players talking about what a jerk he could be. And I think that some warts have been exposed. The one thing you do not see in there, and he has control of everything. You don't see anything in there about women. If you notice, if you watch The Last Dance, you would swear there was never any women around the Bulls except when Rodman went to Vegas with his girlfriend Carmen Electra and partied. But you would think Jordan, you know, was the perfect husband, and no mention of his wife, his ex-wife or his current wife. So women have just been erased from The Last Dance, and I understand it. You know, that's not what they're doing. What they're shooting for, and I think it's an unbelievable series that's going to run away with the Emmy Awards.
Well, I would think you could, if you're going to do a documentary about women hanging around an NBA team for the better part of a decade, you're going to go down so many rabbit holes, it would be hard to follow.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I think that's why Jordan said there's certain things that he wouldn't do, and I'll guarantee you, without knowing, but watching it, that's one of the things. It's a man's world in the Jordan in the Last Dance.
Thank you, John. As always.
Thank you, guys. SicEm.
There we go. We can always, you know, you're allowed to turn the volume down, hang up. He has to get in that. Thank you, SicEm. Appreciate it.
I will say, you know, Rodman's escapades, obviously you need to make that like HBO Max if you really wanted to show those in full detail. But Carmen Electra back in the day, woo-wee. I was just a young like sophomore in high school when Singled Out was a really big show, and her and Jenny McCarthy back in the day, that was my wheelhouse.
Hey, I'll tell you this. If you would have told me that Carmen Electra, who dated Dennis Rodman, would wind up being the less crazy of the two of those people and causing less damage to the entire world than Jenny McCarthy has. If you had told me when I was 19 years old that Jenny McCarthy would possibly do irreparable damage to planet Earth, I would have been like, how?
Yeah. She's gone down in my book based on, like, you know, how the years have unfolded.
How did she
She's the queen of the anti-vaxxer movement.
Yeah, big time.
Of the who?
Anti-vaxxer movement.
Does not believe in vaccines.
Oh. Ooh.
And she's very
I bet you she believes
in
in one now.
Yeah. Well, there's still some that don't, even despite all of this. But, yeah, she got I mean, her Hollywood fame ran out a long time ago. Just, you know, age and times change and things like that. But, yeah, she became far more notable over the last few years for being very much on the record about her beliefs in vaccinations. And, yeah, her versus Carmen Electra at that time, to Paul's point. Carmen was dating Dennis Rodman and they were on their world tour of craziness, and Jenny McCarthy was just like the dream girl next door type. And well, these later years have completely flipped that entirely.
She's married to a Donnie Wahlberg, so.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So there's
not bad. Cool there. Yeah, I think I actually saw, those magazines at the counter.
We were at
HEB or whatever.
One of the Super Bowl, I want to say the last time we were in California for a Super Bowl, they were there doing their
San Francisco?
Show.
The Wahlbuggers.
Yeah.
It would have been San Francisco?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
it wasn't L.A. or San Diego.
No.
Santa Clara, that.
Yeah, I think that's where that's when we saw them.
Hey, tomorrow, just to give you a sneak peek, Hall of Fame basketball player Rick Barry will be really almost off the top of our show. And we'll talk to him about The Last Dance. He was part of the San Francisco Warriors, and then, of course, eventually the team that won a world championship, I think, in 75. And he's a very opinionated guy. He's the one that shot free throws underhanded at like 90-something%. Always thought Shaq should try it. Chamberlain did. Best player, perhaps, to ever play the game. Although Alcindor's in that conversation, Michael Jordan. Of course, there's some modern support for LeBron.
But that would have been really interesting if Shaq could have just moved his ego out of the way and done that, because I don't know the full story.
He would have averaged an extra 10 points a game.
I don't know what the full story is and why he just chose not to, other than, I just figure he probably thought it was going to be pretty embarrassing looking. But had he done that and it had been effective, then Hack-a-Shaq's out the window, and he is averaging probably 10 more, if not 15 to 20 more points a game until they realize, hey, we can't do this any longer, and then that changes everything.
And the games wouldn't have been so God at the end when you saw that. If Wilt Chamberlain can go do free throws underhanded to improve his free throw shooting, then anyone else who's ever played the game can do it.
So what are you going to make fun? Here's like the whole guys think they get made fun of. If Wilt Chamberlain did it, what possibly in the world, given Wilt Chamberlain's life, the ultimate NBA player life, what could you possibly make fun of Wilt for?
I know.
It's not affecting.
And it got to a point where you get used to it. It's like anything else. You do get used to it.
Who cares if it's good, if it goes in the bucket, then that's all that matters. Yeah.
Jack Sikma had kind of a funky shot. He's a big, tall, almost like a 6'11", 7-footer who hit a pretty good jump shot from 17, 18 feet. He had kind of a weird shot. Was it Dennis Johnson? Who else?
Bill Cartwright had a really weird free
Bill
throw
Cartwright
shot.
had kind of almost a jerky. It doesn't matter.
And the thing is, I know
Nina Davis.
Yeah, I know Shaq could do it if he put in the work, because I've seen his reality show. I doubt you guys have seen it, but it dropped a few weeks ago during quarantine. And it was fine. It's like your typical reality show. So they're, by episode 2 and 3 having to come up with these, stupid gimmicky storylines and things like that. So I completely lost interest. But I checked out the first episode just out of curiosity. And, Shaq, it's out there and it's well written about. But, he truly is an incredibly busy man, just with what he's doing with Papa John's and all of the other businesses that he has and he runs and he works with. So, yeah, he's definitely the guy that if he put in the work, he could most certainly accomplish hitting free throws at a higher rate. I just don't think he ever cared to do that.
I was a huge Shaq fan growing up in spite of that, because he was in Orlando, I was right down the road. I was in that generation of the NBA where, where I'm like a baseline Spurs fan, they were just okay back then. And, so I liked watching players and the Magic run. And, but I remember we were watching games and how is he so bad at this little thing here? And how can you be so stubborn as to not do anything about it? But he still is a Hall of Fame player.
Still scored 30-plus a night.
Remember, who is it? Jim Furyk in golf has a weird swing. He won a major. He won millions and millions and millions of dollars.
And he was also a guy who, for a long time, was pretty consistent in the top 15. He's not one of these guys that just kind of came up and won a major out of nowhere. He was consistently in the top 15.
Never was a long hitter, but he was absolutely, like Trevino said, he could take a 3-wood. And remember, he had the choke down on the driver because Herbert is caddy. That was a great story. But he was precision-like. Won 17 tournaments, won a major in a U.S. Open, which makes sense because that's one of those you got to be really target golf in some cases, the fairways and the rough so thick.
So I wanted to pass this along before we go. But the governor of Arizona, Doug Ducey, he is maintaining that the stay-at-home order in Arizona will expire on Friday and that vulnerable people are still urged to stay home or work from home. But Arizona's opening back up on Friday, or opening up further, versus L.A., who's now announcing, for at least L.A. County, that they're looking at the next 3 months all the way into July for the shutdown. So, you start to look a little bit more college football, and USC, UCLA, Stanford, all of those schools can't go, but Arizona and Arizona State are like, we're good.
It's about time we won the Pac-12.
Yeah, hey, maybe it's about time we leave this dumpster fire of a conference and we go join the Big 12 or something.
Yeah.
Who knows what the kind of ramifications
Arizona
it
and
could
Arizona
be.
State would have fit in with the Big 12.
Yeah, I think that's not something you even rule out as a possibility in the future. I think that's something they should look long and hard at, because I'd much rather be with the Big 12 right now than be with the Pac-12, and it's not that much of a difference, travel-wise, just maybe a little bit longer, but not enough to make it significant.
Southwest flies there 1,000 times a day.
Yeah.
Well, for the Texas schools, Iowa State and West Virginia probably wouldn't care for it too much.
But when have we cared about what West Virginia thinks about locations and travel?
I don't think West Virginia feels to me like one of those schools that kind of has to vote the way they do because they came in when they did.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was during the conference apocalypse when everybody was shifting around, and they got a much better deal than they could have, and because had Louisville said yes, I'm not sure if the ACC bucks up to West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
ACC and Big 12 both wanted Louisville. They go to the ACC. The ACC had so many other options. I'm not sure if West Virginia doesn't get left out in the cold because they're like, whatever.
They were once I think West Virginia was once an independent.
Yeah.
I believe. I don't know if it was back in the days with Major
Because
Harris or
it's
whatever.
not easy.
Big East was
it's not easy to get to Blacksburg. Well, I mean, you fly into
Pittsburgh.
To Blacksburg, or I guess Blacksburg, not Blacksburg, Morgantown. It's not easy to get there.
No,
so you fly to Pittsburgh.
into Pittsburgh, take a bus, whatever. Yeah. All right.
So,
yeah, that's interesting that Arizona is going to do that, and hey, they got to go out. They got to go out and play golf. There's a lot of retired people. They're vulnerable because of the ages there, but it's a huge retirement state.
Well, that's why they're opening it up, but saying that if you're amongst the most vulnerable, to continue to adhere by the rules and stay at home. So I don't know how much of an effect it'll have for those people. I also wanted to pass along a note from the NBA, as the Players Association, their regional reps, sent out a text to players today, and it asked them a simple yes or no question. And it assured these players by answering that it would all be kept confidential. But they asked the question, do you want to try and play again this season? Just to try to get a gauge of, what people are thinking. And based on the returns that I've seen so far, players like LeBron James and Chris Paul and Steph Curry and many, many others, Giannis Antetokounmpo, have all apparently said that they would like to try and get this season restarted. And Jared Dudley actually had an interesting response to Adrian Wojnarowski. He said, safety obviously first. Nowhere will we be as safe as the NBA compound site, they determine. But I don't think players know the effects of not playing and what that does to next year. This is bigger than my team isn't in the playoffs, so who cares? If there's no playoffs, there's no TV money, new CBA next year. So he's thinking of it from different perspectives on what a canceled season would mean. But it does appear as though the majority of the NBA stars are in favor of trying to get this season back on track.
So California says no campuses, right, basically, and they're about the...
No, they're extending the home lockdown orders for another 90 days.
Yeah, but I also think that the California universities are making some sort of decision about, basically, let's see here. California says no campus instruction. Arizona welcomes the pros. It's just two different states right next to each other.
I mean, look, I get being cautious and all that, but, at what point are you doing so much more damage by being overly cautious, or even if you are being the right amount of cautious, by 3 months out determining, hey, let's not have this or have that? I just think it's almost like you're just trying to make headlines or something rather than make right decisions.
What's the matter with extending it 2 weeks at a time?
Yeah, why does it have to be 90 days? I mean, what do you know that... right.
Either that or they do know something that, they don't want to let out, so they're just going to say, hey, 90 days. But
I saw this. The 23 campus California State University system. Maybe this is some of what you are seeing, but the 23 schools that are under the California State University umbrella, they have announced that they will conduct almost all classes online for fall 2020.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. But what Mac was saying to us, Baylor AD, was like, as long as there's some sort of instruction going on, whether it's online, on campus, whatever, that he feels like that helps.
And students, they very well could be student athletes back on campus or in their cities and taking all their classes
Joe Burrow
at their house.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Burrow did all online classes at LSU last year.
So,
all right, so who did we have today? We started out with Santana Dotson. We had John McClain, David Hellman.
Will Purdue
on The Last Dance, former Bulls and Spurs and a couple of other teams as well. Mac Rhodes as well. Appreciate him. Tomorrow we start with Rick Barry. We'll have former Redskins quarterback Theismann. I invited him on because I wanted him to talk about quarterbacks and contracts and percentage of cap, Dak Prescott, and more. We'll also hear tomorrow from John Machota at 5. James Washington, former Cowboys safety, will also be a part of the show. For Dylan Chapman, thank you, sir, for running the mothership. And Paul, you running the absolute mothership. For Craig Smoke, I'm David Smoke. Thanks to our title sponsor, Ideal MRI. Thanks to all of our sponsors you hear every day. Thank you for listening whenever you do, however long it might be. And good night on SicEm365 Radio.